What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 6 PS Chapter 141 Hold the Sword with Both Hands. The first 3000 character chapter. Chapter 141. Gripping the Sword with Both Hands, first update, 3000 word chapter. Buzz. 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 An extremely violent Ryotsu surged from Zaraki Kenpachi's body. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, everything was enveloped and bound by an invisible force, making it extremely difficult for everyone to move, as if they were mosquitoes trapped in oil droplets. The air became abnormally viscous and dense, ferocious. Kaido widened his eyes. In terms of aura alone, the current Zaraki Kenpachi was nearly twice as strong as before. What an exaggerated increase, truly. Interesting. Kaido suddenly burst into laughter, the hatred in his eyes disappearing without a trace, replaced by a sense of joy. I've been waiting for this. This kind of feeling is what makes it interesting. He was a man who had attempted suicide more than once in search of this kind of excitement. Battle. It was something he loved. Boom. The enormous Wolf's Tooth Club clashed with the Zanpakuto, creating a tremendous sound. The sound seemed capable of piercing people's eardrums. The sky split open in the center of their clash, and the earth groaned as if it couldn't bear the strain. Clang. 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 Ha ha ha. Zaraki Kenpachi burst into mad laughter and suddenly swung his sword, cutting directly into Kaido's body, bypassing the Wolf's Tooth Club. Swish. A streak of blood flickered. Kaido's eyes widened slightly, his body was bleeding? He enjoyed suicide, but until now, he couldn't even die. The reason for this was his body, strong, incredibly strong. His skin was as hard as if it could withstand falling from a height of 10,000 meters without even a scratch. However, at this moment, a streak of blood was drawn across his skin. The wound wasn't deep, but it bled bright red blood. Interesting. Kaido laughed maniacally, tearing open his own clothes to reveal the scars on his chest. This is from my battle with Kazuki Oden. It's been over 10 years, and this is the first time I've received a cut like this. The battle with Kazuki Oden had left him with these scars, inflicted by the opponent's powerful sword strikes. Since then, it was the first time he had been wounded. Kazuki Oden's powerful sword strikes had the ability to absorb the haki of the wielder in an instant and release it all at once. Using this clever method, he left behind these two sword marks. But Kaido could see it clearly. The opponent's sword was indeed sharp and sturdy, and it carried a strange feeling that he couldn't quite grasp. It was a good sword. But what was stronger was this man. In fact, Kenpachi had always treated his sword as a mere tool for combat. Before his power awakened, he couldn't even hear the voice of his Zanpakuto. In his hands, his own Zanpakuto was just a tool for killing enemies, unlike the battle companions in the hearts of other captains. What was powerful was himself, not the sword, so, Kaido narrowed his eyes. I'll ask you to die. He suddenly reversed his grip on the Wolf's Tooth Club, and thunderous sounds erupted. Faint black lightning flickered on the club, incredibly fast. Thunderous 8 trigrams. With this strike, he had once knocked Luffy, a 4th gear user, unconscious. Zaraki Kenpachi's pupils contracted, and in the next second, the enormous Wolf's Tooth Club appeared before his eyes. Advertisement boom. In an instant, he was sent flying like a golf ball, soaring far away. Boom. He was directly blasted away, crashing into a distant mountain. The small mountain trembled and shattered into countless pieces. The tremors even felt like an earthquake under Kaido's feet. Unlike the casual strike he used when waking up drunk, this strike was Kaido's full power. Pado. Ha ha ha. A voice filled with immense joy came from the pile of rubble that had turned into gravel. What are you laughing at? Kaido squinted his eyes. Sorry. Zaraki Kenpachi grinned, a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He didn't care. He wiped it off casually and stood up from the pile of rubble, his eyes shining. I'm so happy, I accidentally laughed out loud. Happy. Kaido furrowed his brow. Yeah. Zaraki Kenpachi burst into laughter, and his aura became even more powerful. His sword seemed to tremble, making a creaking sound. It's been so long since I felt this. It's like the blade has been polished by Ryotsu. That's what makes it interesting. Boom. In the next second, he suddenly charged forward and swung his sword. Clang. 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 There was no technique, just slashing, slashing, and slashing with all his strength. But each strike was heavier than the last. Kaido, who was more than 3 times taller than an average person, was actually being suppressed by Zaraki Kenpachi, this shorty. All of them are metal wolf fangs, colliding with Zanpakuto again and again, as if the most beautiful music, making Zaraki Kenpachi's power stronger and stronger. Kaido is also falling behind more and more. This guy. Kaido's face sank, suddenly exerting force, forcing Zaraki Kenpachi back a few steps. Zaraki Kenpachi is not polite either, rushing over with a wild laugh. But as soon as he approached, a huge dragon appeared in front of him. It was as big as a small mountain, and the nails on one of the dragon's claws were taller than an ordinary person. Zone mythical beast type. Dragon. After a clear whistle, the dragon's mouth opened wide. Heat breath. The wild breath sprayed out, sweeping the entire area. Such an attack is enough to instantly destroy a city. The breath lasted for more than 10 seconds, and the ground seemed to turn into lava. Kaido frowned. That man was still standing there. He was covered in blood, with significant burns, causing the blood that flowed out to be burned into scabs. However, this man looked up and laughed heartily. Zaraki Kenpachi's movements were rough, causing the dried scabs to burst open again, splattering fresh blood. But he seemed to not care at all, just laughing excitedly. Great, it's amazing. He laughed heartily, his eyes filled with madness. It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't like this. Then, he crazily rushed forward and swung his sword. Kaido's face changed slightly, but he also didn't hold back and fought back. Advertisement swish. His dragon claws were sharper than a big knife, leaving bloody marks on Zaraki Kenpachi's body with each swipe. Zaraki Kenpachi swung his sword back, but Kaido easily dodged his attack. Although he had a huge body, his speed was even faster than before. This is the ability of the zone-type Devil Fruit. Enhancing the body's overall qualities, there is no loss of agility even when the body becomes huge. With a backhand swipe, Kaido tore open Zaraki Kenpachi's deadly armor, leaving another deep wound visible to the bone. But that man kept coming back, attacking again and again. This guy. A hint of suppression flashed in Kaido's eyes. Clearly, he had left wounds on Zaraki Kenpachi, clearly he had inflicted extremely serious injuries on him, clearly 10 slashes from the other party were not as heavy as one of his claws. But why? Why does it feel like I'm being suppressed by him now? Ha ha ha. Zaraki Kenpachi's laughter continued, his expression filled with wild joy. Completely ignoring his own injuries, he just kept slashing. An aura like an evil spirit rose from Zaraki Kenpachi, almost materializing. It even felt more terrifying than the pressure from Kaido's dragon. Die. Kaido attacked with all 4 claws, his eyes fierce. Splurt. Zaraki Kenpachi's body erupted with blood, 830 in total. Front, back, left, right, visible wounds, deep to the bone. The next second, the battlefield seemed to fall into silence. Zaraki Kenpachi calmly touched the wound beside his neck, blood continuously spewing out as if he had hit a major artery. TCH, if this continues, I'm really going to die. He lowered his eyelids, looking at his wound, pressing it lightly with his hand. Even though his physical fitness is strong, if he gets a few more wounds like this, he will really die. Sigh. There's really no way. He stretched out his hand, looking at the fresh blood that had just stuck to his wound. It's rare to have a taste of what they call swordsmanship. But there is one thing I agree with. What are you talking about? Kaido furrowed his brows. Do you need to say this kind of thing? Kaido squinted his eyes. What are you saying? You don't know the difference between holding a sword with both hands and holding it with one hand. Then he raised it high and slashed. I see, you really don't understand. Zaraki Kenpachi calmly looked at the other party. Is it necessary to say such a thing? Because it didn't suit my personality. All those cliché things about the way of the sword, I didn't like them, so I never used it. Zaraki Kenpachi calmly picked up his sword and said, when I first joined the 13th Division, I was tricked by an old man and practiced swordsmanship. Holding a sword with both hands is obviously more powerful than holding it with one hand. Zaraki Kenpachi said, a smile reappearing at the corner of his mouth. The blade of Zanpakuto pointed directly at Kaido. Swish. Do you know, holding a sword with both hands is more powerful than holding it with one hand. The next second, Kaido suddenly extended his claws. Swish. As he spoke, Zaraki Kenpachi held his Zanpakuto with both hands. Chapter 142 You are just lucky, subscribe for the second update. Chapter 142 You're just lucky, second update, please subscribe. The coastline of Wano-kuni. Hold your ground, don't pursue, hold your ground, Shunmaru shouted, cleaving a cannonball in half with his sword. Boom. The cannonball was split into 2 sections and immediately exploded. Who? Shunmaru gasped for breath, squinting his eyes. Truly worthy of the beast's pirates, this is getting troublesome. Here, a fierce battle was raging. The Kaido pirates relentlessly bombarded the coastline of Wano-kuni while desperately trying to land. Wano-kuni's geographical environment made it easy to defend but difficult to attack. However, the beast's pirates, who had been in an alliance with Wano-kuni for over a decade, finally found a decent angle of attack. A brutal landing battle began directly. Some of Wano-kuni's experts had already engaged in combat with the Kaido pirates, including both skilled fighters and ordinary soldiers. Yokozuna Kawamatsu fought against Jack the Drought with a group of people, while Shunmaru continuously supported various fronts to prevent the enemy from breaking through. Normally, landing battles were extremely difficult to win. Even with the element of surprise, along with equipment and numerical advantages, it was almost impossible to achieve a favorable exchange ratio. But this war was different. Wano-kuni did not have defensive weapons like cannons, although Kaido's factory had some. However, the people of Wano-kuni did not know how to use them. So they could only endure the bombardment from the Kaido pirates and rely on their geographical advantage to gradually erode the landing forces. It could be said that both sides were fighting under relatively balanced conditions. It was a battle of pure strength. Fortunately, Wano Kuni had the capital to form an alliance with Kaido, so they had some skilled fighters, albeit not many. They could barely hold this ground. Is Zaraki Kenpachi alright? Shudenmaru gritted his teeth. That man was Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, known as the strongest creature on land, sea, and air, Kaido. Stop thinking about it, focus on our own battle. Shudenmaru shook his head and continued to swing his sword, slashing at the pirates. Despite the booming artillery fire, both Shudenmaru and Yokozuna Kawamatsu, as well as their opponents Jack the Drought and the Scorching Calamity, they all had a portion of their attention focused on a distant location. There, from time to time, came a sound even louder than the cannon fire. The clouds in the sky seemed to have been slashed multiple times, with countless cracks. That was the battlefield between Kaido and Zaraki Kenpachi. Who will win in the end? If it were before, Jack and the other pirates wouldn't worry about such things. Advertisement, but now, they had been fighting for a long time. Could that man called Zaraki Kenpachi really fight against us 4 emperors like this? The situation seemed extremely tense, suddenly. The pupils of the Scorching Calamity and Ember Jizo contracted. Yokozuna Kawamatsu and Jack the Drought, who were locked in combat, also paused. Shudenmaru instinctively looked towards the rear. Crack. A loud sound, a crack, rapidly extended. The crack was enormous, like the cracks after an earthquake, stretching all the way from the distance to the coastline. This is. Kazuki Hiyori, who was in command, was momentarily stunned, then instantly revealed a hint of joy. Jack and the Scorching Calamity's faces, which were originally firm, changed. This was a sword scar, and everyone knew that Kaido used a club, not a sword, along with his Devil Fruit ability. FTE. He doesn't use a sword, and at the location that everyone was concerned about. Tick-tock play button tick-tock, tick-tock crimson blood keeps flowing. A sharp corner lies on the ground, ignored by everyone. Who? Kaido has already transformed into human form, supporting himself with his hands, gasping for breath. The wound on his chest, from top to bottom, is deep enough to see the bones, and he can even faintly see the injured internal organs. Fresh blood keeps flowing from the wound. It's surprising, a tough guy indeed. Zaraki Kenpachi chuckles, carrying his sword. Then, he casually carries his sword and turns to leave. Kaido's pupils shrink, forcefully supporting himself on the ground, looking up. Wait for me. What? Zaraki Kenpachi carries his sword, turning his head discontentedly. Where are you going? Kaido grits his teeth, his voice suppressed as if it's coming from his abdomen. Going back, I've had enough, Zaraki Kenpachi calmly says. Before Zaraki Kenpachi finishes speaking, Kaido suddenly props himself up on the ground, raising his body. What are you thinking? An angry voice shouts from his mouth, causing the blood to burst and stain the ground. Why won't you give me the final blow? Advertisement. You've won. The victory is decided. Kaido can't even stand now, his Devil Fruit transformation completely undone, and even moving is difficult. While the other party also has some injuries, compared to Kaido himself, it's almost as if they haven't been injured at all. The victory has already been determined. Sorry. Zaraki Kenpachi calmly looks at Kaido. I have no interest in someone who can no longer fight. I also have no obligation to give you the final strike. What are you joking about? Kaido's face is full of anger, his whole person resembling a mad demon. Ignoring the continuously bleeding wound, he shouts, Are you taking me for a fool? Just kill me? Kaido has not never lost before. He has been captured by the naval headquarters more than once, defeated by other 4 emperors. But even when subjected to hanging, he would break the chains. Even when taken to the guillotine, he would shatter the blade. Even when stabbed by a spear, it would end with the spear breaking. He has survived until now not by relying on others showing mercy, but by relying on his formidable strength that can break free even when captured by the naval headquarters. Absolutely not by surviving like this, being let go by others. Kaido is stunned, looking at the eyes of the man in front of him, listening to his words. If you lose and haven't died, it can only mean you're lucky. Kaido stands there dumbfounded. What are you saying? However, in the next second, a large hand suddenly grabs Kaido and lifts him up. I didn't hold back when I fought you. It's your luck that you're not dead. A long silence. Stay alive, and then think about how to kill the person who didn't kill you. Zaraki Kenpachi calmly says, then reveals a smile. Don't babble here. Zaraki Kenpachi looks down at that demonic face from a higher position. If you also enjoy fighting, don't clamor for others to kill you. Kaido lies flat on the ground, his eyes slightly narrowed. Don't think of dying just because you lost. Only when you die can you truly lose. After a long time, he sighs deeply, stay alive. Silence. Stay alive, and then come to kill me again. Zaraki Kenpachi casually releases his grip, carries his sword, and walks away. Zaraki Kenpachi. At a time like this, you only need to think about how to survive. Then, he meets a pair of calm and deep eyes. Chapter 143 4 Emperors. Ignoring this king. How dare you call yourself emperor? The third update asks for subscription. Chapter 143. 4 Emperors. Ignoring this king. Dare to call yourself an emperor? Kaido, defeated. This doubt has been lingering in the hearts of the pirates who fought on the coastline. The most crucial thing is that after the sword marks extended here and exploded, they never heard a single sound coming from there again. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That's our beast's pirate's admiral, 4 Emperors Kaido. Soon, Enma Jingu personally took action, transforming into a toothless winged dragon, wanting to fly over and find out what happened. Of course, Sakazuki wouldn't let Enma Jingu pass so easily, although it seems that Zaraki Kenpachi has the advantage. What if both sides are heavily injured? If Enma Jingu is allowed to pass, won't Zaraki Kenpachi be doomed? Risking his life, he entangled Enma Jingu. Enma Jingu couldn't break free, so he ordered the pirates to fight desperately. The pirates did go crazy in their attacks, especially the other calamity, Jack the Drought. If it weren't for Wano country's favorable geographical advantage and the efforts of numerous samurai like Kawamatsu, they would probably have been broken through. Regardless of Kawamatsu or Sakazuki, they were both at a disadvantage against the two calamities. The power of the Zone Devil Fruit displayed on them was truly formidable, showcasing the strength of the ancient dinosaur species. If it weren't for the assistance of others, they would have definitely lost. However, as time passed, especially with the phenomenon of no second sound coming from the battlefield, the morale of Kaido's pirate crew plummeted significantly. Lord Kaido, could he really have been defeated? Otherwise, why hasn't any other sound been heard? Why can't we see Kaido's enormous dragon body? Worries grew more severe, and the atmosphere became increasingly heavy. Fortunately, Wano country couldn't spare any manpower to go over there. They were already at a disadvantage, and under the enemy's fierce attacks, they couldn't afford to divert any forces. They could only spare a few ordinary soldiers, but what use would those soldiers be if they went over? Even if Kaido let them attack, could they inflict any wounds? It's better not to go. The experts couldn't be spared, and the ordinary soldiers being sent over would be useless. And the pirates couldn't break free for the time being, so they remained deadlocked. Until a while later, a man of incredibly tall stature walked to the shore. Kaido? Sakazuki widened his eyes. Advertisement. Admiral. Jack the Drought smiled. Kaido stood there, truly living up to his title as the strongest creature on land, sea, and air. The wounds on his body had already formed scabs, although they would rupture and blood would seep out with every step he took. But his appearance greatly boosted the morale of the pirates. The soldiers of Wano country, however, had their morale drastically lowered. Kenpachi? Kenpachi? Kazuki Hiyori muttered in a daze. So, he lost after all. Sakazuki sighed. To be able to fight against 4 emperors to this extent, he could be proud of himself. AR. Retreat, everyone, Kaido calmly spoke, taking big strides towards a ship. No soldier dared to stop him, and even the fighting had stopped at this moment. Boss? Admiral? The beast's pirates were puzzled, not understanding what was happening. I lost, Kaido calmly said. I lost? Lost. In an instant, it felt as if time had been suspended. Everyone stood there dumbfounded, not knowing what to say. They could only watch silently as Kaido slowly boarded the ship. Set sail, retreat. The voice was not loud, and it didn't match Kaido's usual rough voice. Everyone suddenly realized that this man had indeed suffered a serious injury, and he might have even come close to death. What about Zaraki Kenpachi? Kazuki Hiyori was taken aback. If Zaraki Kenpachi had won, shouldn't he have rushed to the battlefield? Suddenly, a thought crossed her mind. No, could he be lost? In the outside world at this moment, Wano country was too closed off, and combined with Kaido's swift actions, the news of people heading to Wano country was only just starting to spread. Similar to the world government and other 4 emperors, hardly anyone believed that Kaido would lose. The 4 emperors losing? Advertisement, are you kidding? At most, there would be some pirate alliances in the New World opposing the 4 emperors, taking advantage of Kaido's departure to Wano country to plunder his territory and eliminate some of his subordinates. What else? There would be nothing. Everyone treated this matter as a casual pre-dinner conversation. In the New World, Dressrosa. With Gilgamesh taking control of Dressrosa, significant changes had gradually taken place here. Doflamingo had shifted the location of the black market trades here, and the newly appointed head of the black market, Khalifa, had impressive methods and had quickly brought substantial tax revenue to Dressrosa through trade. Under Gilgamesh's orders, Dressrosa had begun large-scale infrastructure projects. Bridges, roads, ports. Construction was taking place everywhere. Gilgamesh's subordinates, such as Shiryu, had become idle again. There was no choice. Although there were occasional troublemaking pirates, these insignificant pirates were not enough for Shiryu and the others to vent their frustrations. But they couldn't fight among themselves, right? As a result, Ryokugyu, who had decided to surrender, received the contempt of the others. Why not hold on a little longer and let us have a fight before surrendering? They could only pass the time by drinking and having fun every day, which was quite boring. The 4 emperors are making a move again. Shiryu held a newspaper and looked at today's news. The others heard and gathered around. Although Doflamingo had intelligence sources, he still had quite a bit of information about the 4 emperors. Moreover, he wasn't that sincere towards the others, so naturally, he wouldn't tell them all the information. So it was only now that they learned about this from the news. Wano country, that place is quite remote. That old man Kaido is in trouble, what a waste. When are we going to go and give him a good beating? It's so boring lying around here every day. They grinned and laughed heartily. Suddenly, a hand as beautiful as jade took the newspaper from above their heads. Everyone was stunned, seeing the young figure in casual clothes. Gilgamesh? The Four Emperors? Gilgamesh looked at the newspaper, his eyebrows furrowing, his voice filled with anger. Ignore this king, and dare to see Chapter 144 Advance to the Four Emperors. The fourth update asks for subscription. Chapter 144. Advancing towards the Four Emperors, fourth update, please subscribe. Four Emperors? Gilgamesh looked at the newspaper, his eyebrows furrowing with a hint of anger in his voice. Ignoring me, daring to call themselves emperors? Emperor, king, they are similar titles. In some places, emperor is even more prestigious than king. This is an offense. The surrounding pirates were taken aback and exchanged glances. The title of Four Emperors has long been recognized and hasn't changed for a long time. Even before Kaido and the other four emperors came into power, the title of Four Emperors already existed. However, you are angry now. Shiryu's mouth twitched as he tried to say, "My lord, have you never heard of the Four Emperors before?" "What, are they famous?" Gilgamesh coldly retorted. Shiryu's lips moved. "No, it's nothing." A hint of understanding flashed in the eyes of the others. "So our lord doesn't know about the Four Emperors." "No wonder. I felt something was off. After obtaining Dressrosa, our lord has been quiet for a long time, showing no intention of taking down the Four Emperors. Now it seems that he simply doesn't know about the existence of the Four Emperors." Unbelievable. For a moment, everyone didn't know what to say. Our lord doesn't even know about the Four Emperors. "Prepare the ships," Gilgamesh said coldly. "I want to see who these rats are that dare to call themselves emperors in front of me." "My lord, who is our target?" a subordinate curiously asked. "Everyone, let's start with that guy named Kaido." Gilgamesh gave the order in a cold voice and then turned and left. Afterwards, everyone exchanged glances and burst into cheers. A battle. A long-awaited battle. Advertisement. Shiryu touched his sword, and Vasco shot let out a hearty laugh, excitement evident on their faces. The eyes of the others also shimmered with excitement. They are not unaware of the existence of the Four Emperors, nor are they unaware of their strength. But this is the kind of opponent that these guys need. And peaceful days are not suitable for them. This is interesting. Shiryu's eyes flickered with a fierce light. A man like this is worth following. Then, everyone started to move. During this long period of time, Gilgamesh had already permeated his prestige into every corner of Dressrosa. Perhaps there are still some who are loyal to the Riku royal family, but even they would never disobey Gilgamesh's orders. The entire country immediately sprang into action. Supplies, ammunition, and powerful experts all gathered towards the ships, preparing to set sail. Finally, it has come to this. Gilgamesh's clone sighed softly. Actually, this operation was just an accident. It really was just an accident. Gilgamesh's clone happened to pass by where his subordinates were talking and happened to overhear their conversation. If it were just that, he could have pretended not to hear and walked away. But Gilgamesh's clone keenly noticed that one of his subordinates had spotted his presence. #B. There was no choice but to make a decision. Just like how Saitama never allows evil to go unpunished, even if the opponent is a celestial dragon. In Gilgamesh's character design, he also has his own principles. When he heard the name Four Emperors, shouldn't he eliminate them? No, they must be eliminated, so we can only act according to the plan left by the original body. Gilgamesh's clone sighed softly. Zhao Xu had long been aware of the weaknesses of several character templates and had already made plans. Advertisement. If nothing unexpected happened, these arrangements would not need to be considered. But once a situation like the current one occurred, a choice had to be made, to go after the Four Emperors. Fortunately, the management of Dressrosa is almost complete, construction in various places is basically finished, and even schools have started enrolling. Otherwise, it would be a bit troublesome for me to leave, Gilgamesh's clone thought to himself. In fact, the focus of Dressrosa is actually on the school that no one pays attention to. Flowers please. That's right, there is also a student named Ito Makoto in this school. Zhao Xu accidentally discovered that it is impossible for two world-renowned figures like Gilgamesh and Saitama to exist in the same world. But that doesn't mean ordinary templates can't coexist. Although Ito Makoto's name doesn't quite fit the standard naming conventions for pirates, the Ito Makoto in a school in Dressrosa and the Ito Makoto in a school in Goa Kingdom. After a long period of time, Wano country has finally selected the members to join the 11th Division. Who would pay attention to them? Zaraki Kenpachi paused, squinting his eyes. Gilgamesh's template is strong, but it's almost impossible for a clone that can only use a fraction of Zhao Xu's abilities to take down the Four Emperors. Work. Because today is the day the 11th Division of the Gode 13 is established. Interacting with such celebrities would easily bring Ito Makoto into the spotlight, making it difficult to hide. However, Zaraki Kenpachi's expression remained unchanged, and he didn't even have the intention to separate and go to the bathroom to create a clone. Of course, famous figures like Gilgamesh and Saitama would never approach a school and give Ito Makoto the opportunity to interact with them. If everything goes smoothly, in the future, Zaraki Kenpachi will also arrange a school in Wano country and insert an Edo Makoto there. It would be even better to hide Edo Makoto on this side of Wano country, where you won't arouse suspicion at all. It's better to disappear one clone first and inform the original body. Gilgamesh's clone thought to himself, in this situation, the original body needs to take control. Is Gilgamesh going to make a move against the four emperors? Wano country still needs Zhao Xu to continue playing his role for a while. It seems like he can't stay here for too long. After all, this ordinary existence doesn't need fame and won't attract too much attention. Wano country. 0 If enough time passed, Zhao Xu might consider quietly modifying the student records, altering the memories of the teachers, and then adding 10 more Edo Makotos in the next batch of students. Chapter 145 Kaido joins the Gode 13th Squad. The first update asks for automatic. Chapter 145. Kaido joins the Gode 13, first update requested. In fact, even before the battle with Kaido, Wano country had already started forming the 11th Division. As a team to protect Wano country, this team was actually formed in a similar way to a mercenary group. Captain. Zaraki Kenpachi. Vice Captain. Yachiru. Although every time Kazuki Hiyori expressed her desire to use the alias Yachiru as the vice captain, the old retainers like Jashiro Yukitake vehemently opposed it. It's not that they didn't support Kazuki Hiyori becoming the vice captain. Although the 11th Division is only nominally in a cooperative relationship with Wano country, in reality, Wano country has almost handed over the position of the Castle Defense Force to them. Such power naturally needs to be controlled by the legitimate lineage of Wano country. It's fine for Zaraki Kenpachi to be the captain, but the second in command must be someone from the higher echelons of Wano country. But they don't support Kazuki Hiyori using an alias. The Kazuki clan is so noble, how can they disguise their names? However, in the end, even Jashiro Yukitake and the others couldn't resist the persistence of the little girl. The other members are not a big problem. There are many ordinary samurai in Wano country, but the 11th Division has stricter requirements, so it took until now to gather the required number of people. No one dares to slack off on this issue, after all. The Beast's pirates' ships are still not far from the coast of Wano country. It's very strange, although I don't know why, they insist on staying not far from Wano country, neither leaving nor approaching. But because of this, Wano country needs Zaraki Kenpachi. Even though many people are dissatisfied with Zaraki Kenpachi, including Kaido. In fact, Jashiro Yukitake is also somewhat dissatisfied. After all, Kaido has been cooperating with Kurozumi Orochi and exploiting Wano country for a long time. But when faced with Zaraki Kenpachi, I'm not interested in attacking someone who can't resist. If you like, you can do it yourself. If I could defeat Kaido, I would have done it long ago. Jashiro Yukitake's mouth twitched, but he had to accept this reason. In fact, this reason is also in line with the values of the samurai of Wano country. Then they could only silently accelerate the formation of the 11th Division, at least they had to try their best to bind Zaraki Kenpachi to Wano country. Although there are some conspirators who think that Zaraki Kenpachi is doing this intentionally, deliberately forcing us to meet his demands. But more people chose to ignore it. Advertisement. It's such a correct concept not to attack those who are defenseless. This is the true samurai. Do you dare to say he has a conspiracy? Do you dare not trust Lord Kenpachi, the demon god? Seeking death. Led by a group of brainwashed fans, these rumors quickly disappeared. And Zaraki Kenpachi didn't care, as always. Wano country, flower capital, temporary barracks of the 11th Division. Shinigami dressed in their death battle uniforms, swords at their waists, and the division insignia on their shoulders. If someone who is not familiar sees this, they might really think that this is the world of Shinigami, not the world of pirates. Everyone's faces were solemn, with a hint of sweat on their foreheads, standing in 2 rows, waiting for the arrival of that man. Bang! The door of the temporary barracks was suddenly pushed open. A tall man wearing a white captain's haori walked in slowly. I am the captain of Squad 11, Zaraki Kenpachi. His footsteps were steady, his aura imposing, causing the team members to instinctively make way for him. And behind him, Kazuki Hiyori hung on his shoulder, a smile on her lips. Listen carefully. He walked straight ahead, not even glancing at his team members, and said to himself, I don't care about your age, background, or experiences. No matter who you are, none of it can be the basis or limitation for you to stay here, but there is one thing. Everyone instinctively looked at the man and subconsciously swallowed their saliva. Then they heard him say, my requirement for you is strength. His gaze was sharp. I like strong people, I like those who can fight. Direct, simple, and crazy. A pure pursuit of strength, not caring about anything else. These words calmly came out of this man's mouth. For a moment, the newly recruited team members instinctively swallowed their saliva, feeling suppressed. It was not only a clash of ideals, but also the immense pressure brought by this man. Advertisement, agreed. Suddenly, a rough voice sounded. Everyone was stunned, then instinctively turned their heads to look and instantly widened their eyes. The man who had just spoken was tall, with horns on his head, one of which was broken. He was wearing a peculiar death armor, and even loose clothing couldn't hide his powerful aura, as if a beast had entered the renowned world. Kazuki Hiyori widened her eyes. He is. I have arrived, as you said. Boom. Boom. The man took big strides and stood opposite Zaraki Kenpachi. At the same time, even though Wano Kuni is closed off, Kaido's pirate group is not. 4 Emperors Kaido of the Beasts was defeated one-on-one in Wano Kuni and joined the organization established by that man. And the name of the man who defeated Kaido was. Because they all received a piece of news. Is this a joke? Garp's mouth twitched, not knowing what to say. Zaraki Kenpachi revealed a smile. Zaraki Kenpachi. Is this man also a swordsman? Hawkeye squinted his eyes and instinctively touched his sword. Interesting, truly interesting. Whitebeard laughed heartily, then took a big sip of his drink. There are indeed many nameless monsters in this sea. Is this true? Admiral Sengoku was dumbfounded, his eyes vacant. Kaido. 1.2. You have fallen too. Charlotte Linlin narrowed her eyes, filled with hostility. And at this moment, someone in the group instinctively said the name of that man. So the news quickly reached the leaders of the major forces. However, there was a solemn expression in Whitebeard's eyes. Although Wano Kuni is closed off, Kazuki Hiyori has already begun planning the founding of a nation. Dragon looked at the intelligence he had obtained, remaining silent for a long time. Organization name. Squad 11 of the Go Day 13. Chapter 146 Change the target and kill Charlotte Linlin. The second update asks for automatic. Chapter 146. Change of target. Take down Charlotte Linlin. Second update requested. That's the 4 Emperors. The 4 Emperors. They're the unparalleled powerhouses among the late Grand Line Emperors, with only 4 individuals. Someone like that would actually submit, and that guy named Zaraki Kenpachi dares to recruit him too? How arrogant. When everyone heard this news, their faces became incredibly stiff, so stiff that it made people wonder if they had turned into zombies. First of all, the clearest point is that Kaido is definitely not weak. To defeat him and subdue him, no matter what means, whether it's through respect or coercion, at least it represents the strength of the force called the Go Day 13. At the very least, there are now 2 4 Emperors level existences, Kaido and Zaraki Kenpachi, who surpasses Kaido, representing the crushing of the other 4 Emperors. Although there may be differences in strength among the 4 Emperors, it is unlikely that it would be to the extent where 2 4 Emperors cannot defeat one person. This is troublesome. Sengoku from the naval headquarters had an extremely unpleasant expression. Originally, there was a balance of power on the sea. The Marines are one force, the 4 Emperors are another force, and the Shichibukai are another force. The 3 forces are not far apart in strength, which helps maintain balance. It is very troublesome for any one of them to become too strong. It easily leads to war. This is also the reason why he decided to implement the Shichibukai policy. It's not that as a Marine, he doesn't want to eliminate those pirates, but the cost of doing so is too high, and the gains are not worth it. In reality, the Shichibukai policy is effective, at least during Sengoku's era. The early part of the Grand Line has already calmed down major conflicts, allowing the Marines to focus their energy on dealing with the wars in the late Grand Line. This is also one of the reasons why Akainu dares to place the naval headquarters in the New World. But now, Zaraki Kenpachi, Uchiha Madara, and Gilgamesh. Sengoku's voice was low, they're all troublesome. Uchiha Madara can defeat marine forces, his strength is definitely at the level of the 4 Emperors. Or even stronger, Gilgamesh doesn't reveal his true strength, but he can easily cause the greatest changes. Advertisement: why are there so many powerhouses in this sea? Fortunately, we still have Saitama. Sengoku sighed, this can be considered the only good news for the Marines. So, Sengoku, what are you going to do? Garp's face no longer had much laughter, instead, it carried a hint of seriousness. According to the world government's intelligence, Kaido has already started ordering his territories to change their flags to the 11th Division's emblem. This doesn't look like a false submission. As one of the 4 Emperors, Kaido occupies a considerable amount of territory. Most of it is under Kaido's flag, countries protected by Kaido, similar to the relationship between Whitebeard and the Fishmen. But now, even the flags have to be changed. If it weren't for their strong disbelief, they would suspect that they have truly completely submitted. Damn it, how could Kaido submit? Sengoku's face turned pale at the thought of this. And that Zaraki Kenpachi, he really dares to recruit Kaido. In fact, it's not just Sengoku who feels the difference, even the people of Wano country can't help but have some doubts. Why recruit Kaido? Kaido is like a time bomb, he can rebel at any moment if he gets injured. Even if we don't consider his grievances with Wano Kuni, we shouldn't have taken him in. However, Zaraki Kenpachi didn't even bother explaining, and Kaido didn't even bother to respond. They simply didn't care to explain to those people. Not only the people of Wano Kuni, but even the members of the Beast's pirates had many doubts. However, Kaido expressed that if you love to obey, and if you don't, then get lost. Compared to Wano Kuni, the Beast's pirates were completely under his control, and he didn't need to say much. There were very few in the entire pirate group who dared to voice their dissent. Voicing dissent was an easy way to get killed. So, although many members of the Beast's pirates were dissatisfied, they ultimately obeyed Kaido's orders and joined the Go Day 13. As for those who wanted to leave, they were killed. Are the Beast's pirates a group where you can come and go as you please? Well, it was Kaido himself who took action, and the people around him seemed to have poor memory and completely forgot what Kaido had said before: if you don't obey, then get lost. Or maybe what he said afterwards was, if you don't obey, then go die. The Beast's pirates were relatively stable, but there were many in Wano Kuni who held opposing views. Especially some samurai who had grudges against the pirates. They simply didn't want these people to join their ranks. Advertisement. And finally, Kaido said the first words to them. Is the 11th division yours, Wano Kuni? With just this sentence, everyone was left speechless. If it's not your influence, why can't members who have grudges against you join? Wait and see, he will rebel sooner or later, many warriors secretly thought. However, what no one expected was that Kaido actually followed all the rules of the 11th division, and even if he made occasional mistakes, he accepted punishment. There was even a time when a group of warriors whose family members were killed by the pirate group sought revenge on him, but he didn't pursue it. He just used his strong body to endure their attacks. He only turned around and left when the attackers got tired and their swords became dull. At this time, the news that the 4 emperors had submitted to a man who had never been heard of before had already been published in the newspapers, spreading throughout the entire sea. It caught everyone's attention, but he still spoke. It's Charlotte Linlin of Wano Kuni. There really are monsters everywhere in this sea. The 4 emperors, actually submitting? For the sake of him soon losing that title that offends me, let's temporarily ignore him. Doflamingo, among the remaining 4 emperors, which one is closest to us? Kaido actually submitted. Shiryu widened his eyes. Unbelievable. Good, then let's change our target and go kill her, Gilgamesh said without hesitation. Yeah, he's our target after all. Doflamingo smirked, his expression, Zhao Nuo Zhao, much more relaxed. He couldn't possibly be thinking. Doflamingo's mouth twitched at the question. But that man named Zaraki Kenpachi actually defeated and made Kaido submit. At least they didn't have to directly confront a 4 emperor anymore. HMPH. Gilgamesh held the newspaper, a disdainful expression on his face. He truly is a false king who disrespects me, yet he can still submit to others. Fine. Many people were almost wide-eyed in disbelief. My king, what should we do? Doflamingo turned to ask. Even the group led by Gilgamesh, who was about to set sail to conquer Kaido, showed great surprise. The Hunter of the Black Moon, Catherine Dupin, calmly said, can someone like him still be a 4 emperor? They will definitely strip him of his title. Chapter 147. Big Mom is furious. The third change asks for automatic. Chapter 147. Auntie's Fury, third update requested. A fleet of ships set sail towards the Grand Line without hesitation. At the same time, news quickly spread. Gilgamesh is going to take down the 4 emperors. At first, Shiryu and the others thought he was planning a surprise attack, so they instinctively wanted to keep the information confidential. But Gilgamesh spoke up directly. A king should stand in the most dazzling position and charge towards the enemy without any disguise. And so, they went from being covert to being direct. After all, disguises were not suitable for these powerful pirates. They were even eager to face the 4 emperors head-on. Who would dare to announce their plans directly? We dare. As a result, just as the Marines received the information from a certain intelligence agent, Gilgamesh's plan was announced in its entirety the next second. The plan was very simple and clear. Find her and kill her. Ignoring the self-proclaimed emperors, the true king has arrived. Upon hearing this, Sengoku and the others looked at each other, momentarily unsure of what to say. Although the New World pirates have never stopped provoking the 4 emperors, this is the first time someone has done it so openly and without any disguise. Truly audacious. That Gilgamesh is really bold, isn't he? Sengoku's mouth twitched, sighing with emotion. Yes, Garp laughed heartily. This is interesting, this is fun. I would like to see if he can really take down Charlotte Linlin. The Marines were aware of Gilgamesh's strength. Although he is slightly weaker than Uchiha Madara in the Marines' ranking, and even weaker than the recently rising Zaraki Kenpachi, he is still undoubtedly a strong individual. To attack the Grand Line? Even if he fails, he will definitely be able to inflict heavy damage on the enemy. Unfortunately, we Marines cannot intervene. Sengoku shook his head helplessly. Our current strength is too weak. Although Sengoku and the others have almost recovered from their injuries, the authority of the Marines was severely undermined by Uchiha Madara's attack. With the seas in turmoil, the Marines are stretched thin. Perhaps we can help Gilgamesh in taking down Charlotte Linlin. Sengoku squinted his eyes. Advertisement. Charlotte Linlin is also a major threat, greatly affecting the peace on the seas. If she is eliminated, it would be a good thing. At least Gilgamesh has a significant connection with Doflamingo, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, which affirms Sengoku's Shichibukai policy. Is it possible? Sengoku shook his head. The 4 emperors are the emperors ruling the seas. How could it be possible? Just as he was about to deny it, he suddenly remembered Kaido. Kaido, also one of the 4 emperors, and he is the most ferocious among the 4 emperors. After a moment of silence, Sengoku sighed. If Gilgamesh defeats Charlotte Linlin, his level of intelligence within the Marines will increase. Why do you care about that? Garp nonchalantly ate his senbei. If anyone should be worried, it should be Linlin herself. Sengoku was taken aback, then a smile appeared on his face. Yeah, that's right. In fact, just like Garp, Charlotte Linlin is extremely anxious. Or rather, angry. Boom. A house was directly smashed by her slap. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Charlotte Linlin's eyes widened, glaring like copper bells, almost devouring people. Mom, calm down, calm down. Charlotte's eldest son, Parasparrow, hurriedly advised, it's not a big deal, there have always been people provoking you. Before he could finish his sentence, he felt a gust of wind blowing, almost blowing him away. Charlotte Linlin widened her eyes and rushed to his face. Yes, but I'm the first one to meet someone who dares to speak directly to me. I'm going to kill him, kill him. The roars shook the entire Cake Island. The Charlotte family covered their ears and dared not say much. Because even before Yonko Charlotte Linlin declared war on Kaido, she had been mocking him in her own room. Advertisement she had been mocking Kaido for a long time. For example, this waste's reputation is too low, if it were me, no one would dare to provoke me. Or, submit, trash, submitting to others is simply embarrassing. And also, with this level, he's worthy of being on par with me and being called a Yonko? The Charlotte family knew very well that Charlotte Linlin and Kaido had some relationship, apparently having been on the same ship before. At the same time, everyone was a Yonko, with similar backgrounds, inevitably leading to a sense of competition. But now, Kaido had submitted to someone else, while Charlotte Linlin remained a Yonko. How could this not make her proud? However, just a few days after her pride, when she was preparing to seize territory in Kaido's domain, suddenly this news came. Someone dared to brazenly provoke her. How could Charlotte Linlin not be angry? Initiating contact. No matter if he succeeds or not, as long as we make a move, his reputation will grow significantly. Upon hearing this, Charlotte Linlin's anger subsided a bit. Crush him to death. It's better to wait for him to come over and then. But being able to calm their mom's anger was already quite good. Holding his trident, he said in a deep voice, Mom, if you go there in a big way now, it will only make that guy named Jiragamesh famous. Katakoriko turned his head slightly and said, Pudding. That would only play into the other party's hands. Pirates and celebrities are different, and it seems that their second brother was just fooling their mom. Mom, calm down a bit. At a critical moment, Charlotte's second son, Katakoriko, who was also one of the Sweet Commanders, steadied the situation. Worth it. The Charlotte siblings glanced at each other, finally feeling relieved. It's better to ignore him directly, and then wait for him to come over and crush him to death. Katakoriko, who is this Jiragamesh? What kind of person is he? Suddenly, a small hand gently pulled on Katakoriko. He's a dead man. Knowing this is enough. Katakoriko's words were like those attention-seeking celebrities in Zhao Xu's previous life. To dare to provoke Mom. Chapter 148. Let's go. I'll take you to find the main text of history. The fourth change asks for automatic. Chapter 148. Let's go. I'll take you to find the historical text. Fourth update requested. Charlotte Linlin was furious, but she waited for Gilgamesh's arrival among the nations. In fact, many people were paying attention to Gilgamesh's movements. Was he really going to fight Big Mom, or was he just pretending and planning to do something else? However, this did not prevent Doflamingo from using it as an excuse to demand benefits from the world government. For example, exempting Dressrosa from celestial gold. Can trade taxes be given preferential treatment? There are also many other aspects, most of which are for the benefit of Dressrosa, but there are also some that he planned himself. Gilgamesh knew, but he didn't care. Wanting the horse to run fast without letting it eat grass is simply a foolish wish. Of course, Doflamingo can seek some benefits for himself, but the premise is that you complete the tasks assigned by this king. However, in reality, it is different from what most people imagine. Gilgamesh did not rush straight to the nations to confront Charlotte Linlin. Instead, he started occupying territories step by step from the island where Charlotte Linlin belonged, carrying her flag. The land I have walked on is my territory. Gilgamesh calmly spoke, those false kings should return the territories to me. He planned to follow his own route, sailing towards the nations while occupying all the territories along the way. It is said that when this news spread, Charlotte Linlin almost destroyed Cake Island. By the way, she almost killed Katakori, however, Gilgamesh was also helpless. No way, my main body has something to do, so I can only rely on my clone to delay the time. And as for the main body, Zhao Xu, he really has something to do. It's not just a small matter, but the important matter of picking up girls. Zhao Xu, when will you take me to see the historical text? Nico Robin pursed her lips and bit them. Advertisement, soon, very soon. I'll take you there soon, Zhao Xu yawned and said. Do you have anything else to do? Robin frowned. Now that Goa Kingdom has entered a regular state, whether I go or not won't make much difference. The world government has just suffered a defeat and won't act recklessly. There is great turmoil in the new world, which is a perfect cover for our actions. What are you waiting for? Robin's last sentence was filled with impatience. Robin had made an agreement with Zhao Xu and Uchiha Madara to help him solve the internal affairs of Goa Kingdom and then take her to see the historical text. During the battle, although Uchiha Madara mainly suppressed the Marines, Robin and other support personnel also contributed a lot. Not to mention anything else, when Uchiha Madara was fighting, there was no disturbance in the rear, thanks to Robin's efforts. Even Dragon sighed when he learned about this later, saying, "Truly, she is our revolutionary beacon." Robin is not a specialized politician or official. Yet she managed to solve problems that ordinary officials couldn't. It can be said that she has the talent for it, and her accumulation as an archaeologist has given her enough foundation, but it must also be said that she has put in her own efforts. After the Marines were repelled, Robin did not immediately demand compensation. After all, there were many things happening in the Revolutionary Army at that time, and various political affairs needed to be dealt with. However, at this moment, she couldn't hold back any longer. "What are you waiting for?" Robin gritted her teeth. "Of course, I'm waiting for my true self," Zhao Xu thought to himself, but reassured her, "Don't worry, it will be soon." Actually he had no idea what his true self would do. After all, the news of the clone could be transmitted to the true self when the clone disappeared. But the thoughts of the true self couldn't be transmitted to the clone. "Ah, true self. When will you come?" Zhao Xu's clone sighed in his heart. Meanwhile, Zhao Xu himself was riding on the Vimanavadu, rushing back with all his might. "Ah, it's really pitiful. Everything is coming together," Zhao Xu sighed secretly, stepping forward. "A capable man is always tired. Flowers are requested." Advertisement www 3 days later, on a rapidly sailing ship. "It's strange, why couldn't I convince him before, but now he's taking me directly." Robin's beautiful eyes looked at Zhao Xu at the bow of the ship. 3 days ago, she even said things like, "Just tell me the location of the historical text and I'll find it myself." But Zhao Xu still denied it, stubbornly refusing. However, 3 days later, he seemed even more anxious than herself, mobilizing the fastest ship in the Revolutionary Army and setting sail with a few eternal pointers. He even captured 3 Sea Kings to pull the ship, crossing the calm belt and rushing into the Grand Line. Gilgamesh is challenging the 4 emperors. Although the clone's strength is not afraid of her, it's difficult for the clone to overpower the part of Gilgamesh's abilities that belong to him. As if there was something urgent. And Gilgamesh's heroic abilities are a part of Zhao Xu's abilities. Actually, there's a bit of trouble with Zaraki Kenpachi. Kaido joining the 11th Division is not just for show. "Ah, there's nothing I can do, burdened by reputation," Zhao Xu sighed. The clone can only possess a part of the true self's abilities. After all, there are always some inexplicable wild instincts in One Piece, and it's not impossible to discover something. Zhao Xu turned his head. "Alabasta, isn't he in a hurry?" "Zhao Xu," Robin spoke softly, "where are you taking me?" "Indeed, there is something urgent." Zhao Xu glanced at Robin. "Don't worry, what about Gilgamesh?" Whether the clone can disguise itself in front of a 4 emperors level existence is still a question. Maybe Charlotte Linlin will be so angry that she'll come after him. A part. It's not like Uchiha Madara, who has surpassed his prime, making it too difficult for the Gilgamesh clone to fight the 4 emperors. It was a response to Zaraki Kenpachi's words of, "Stay alive and come kill me again." Chapter 149 Landing on Alabasta. The first update asks for automatic. Chapter 149. Landing in Alabasta. First update, seeking automatic translation. Alabasta is one of the superpowers located in the Grand Line, with its capital being Alubarna. It has a standing army of 600,000 soldiers, and despite being entirely covered in desert, it possesses strong national power. The Nefertari royal family, like the Celestial Dragons, is one of the 20 royal families that were instrumental in the creation of the world government. However, unlike the Celestial Dragons, they did not hand over their country to others but instead entered the Holy Land. They can be considered a rare exception among the royal families. They treat the common people with kindness, and although the country suffers from perennial drought, the citizens' lives are still decent. Is the historical text here? Robin squinted her eyes and looked at the distant desert from the ship. Instead of entering a regular port, they chose to dock in a place near the coastline. Although the Revolutionary Army has already signed a peace treaty with the world government, everyone knows that it's just a useless piece of paper, only useful for wiping one's bottom. In reality, neither the Revolutionary Army nor the world government has any intention of being restrained by a mere treaty. Dragon spreads the revolutionary beliefs with greater enthusiasm in various places, while the world government. Their spies are constantly searching for the Revolutionary Army's stronghold. Of course, since they have publicly signed the treaty, they won't recklessly expose their intentions until both sides are fully prepared. But only publicly. Robin glanced at Zhao Xu. If the people from the world government knew that this, Uchiha Madara's brother, was here, they might directly mobilize the 3 admirals to attack. Well, the historical text is here. Zhao Xu nodded and then leapt forward. Snap. He stepped on the water's surface and said, "Let's go." Robin blinked her beautiful eyes and asked, "Go?" "Yes," Zhao Xu said seriously, "if the ship docks, it will leave traces. It's best for us to go on our own." Robin narrowed her eyes and smiled, "But this is the sea, and I am a devil fruit user." "Devil fruit users cannot swim." "Oh, I forgot about that." Zhao Xu pretended to be surprised. "And I forgot to bring a small boat on the ship." They absolutely cannot dock the large ship casually. The reefs near the shore are enough to wreck their ship and cause casualties. "What should we do then?" Robin looked at Zhao Xu on the sea's surface, adjusting the corners of her mouth. "Well, Zhao Xu pretended to ponder for a moment, then opened his arms. I'll carry you over. Advertisement. Is that the only solution? Robin looked at him with a smile in her beautiful eyes. I can only think of this solution. Do you have any better ideas? Zhao Xu replied without hesitation, smiling shamelessly. Yes, that seems to be the only solution, Robin agreed. Well, that's the only solution. But those who accomplish great things don't worry about trivial matters. Robin, don't be too polite, Zhao Xu said. Robin snorted lightly and glanced at him. Then, she leapt into Zhao Xu's arms. She wasn't some naive and innocent little girl. Although she hasn't had any intimate contact with any man so far, her days of wandering have made her understand many things. Although her face still had a blush, her expression remained calm. Let's go. Yes, Zhao Xu nodded and walked forward slowly. It really is a slow pace, about the same speed as an old man and old lady taking a walk. Feeling the beauty in my arms, along with that faint fragrance mixed with the smell of the sea breeze, who would want to walk fast like a fool? Feeling as if there are two hands on my body itching to move, Robin narrowed her eyes and said, Zhao Xu, can't we walk faster? Zhao Xu calmly replied, no, the sea is rough, and I'm afraid that if we go too fast, we might capsize. Robin glanced at the calm sea. Capsize. Yes, capsize. The place where Zhao Xu and the others landed was near a city called Elmera. Elmera is known as the City of Green, one of the cities with the most plants in Alabasta. And their destination is Yuba, the oasis of Alabasta. However, a few years later, these two places, which were once rainy and prosperous, became dry and desolate. The reason is, Zhao Xu, is Crocodile, one of the Shichibukai, here in Alabasta? Robin walked on the dry desert and calmly asked. Advertisement, yes, Zhao Xu nodded, he is here. I heard that he seems to have become a hero of this country. Robin glanced at Elmera, which she had just passed, squinting her eyes. The title of hero was heard from the residents of Elmera. Do you think the Shichibukai can become a hero? Zhao Xu smiled ambiguously. Of course not. Robin narrowed her eyes. That person is a notorious pirate known for his cruelty. But he did eliminate pirates, and there were too many pirates encountered here in Alabasta. Not cruel enough, not powerful enough, why should he become one of the 7 warlords of the sea? But Alabasta is a country near the entrance of the Grand Line. In other words, pirates who enter the Grand Line often appear here. Although these pirates are not as fierce as those in the New World, since they are pirates, they certainly won't be well behaved. And their numbers far exceed the number of pirates in the New World. From this perspective, Crocodile does indeed need to turn over a new leaf? I advise you to be careful, Zhao Xu yawned. His goal is similar to ours. Similar. Robin squinted her eyes. Our goal is 2.8, which seems to be the true history. Yes, Zhao Xu nodded. So why does he want the true history? Robin hadn't finished speaking when her eyes suddenly narrowed. Excluding the historical markers, there are roughly 2 types of true history that Robin pursues. One is the true history that records information about the ancient weapons. The other is the blank history that records the 100 years of missing history. And obviously, Crocodile is not someone who loves history and is a true archaeologist. But, if Crocodile also wants to pursue the true history, that means... Robin squinted her eyes and glanced at Zhao Xu beside her. Is there really true history here? Chapter 150 Sand Crocodile? The second update asks for automatic? Chapter 150. Sand Crocodile, second update requested. In reality, even before coming here, and even now, Robin still didn't believe Zhao Xu's words. Zhao Xu had mentioned several locations of historical texts before. Charlotte Linlin's whole Cake Island, the 4 emperors had the qualifications to possess historical texts. And now they were in Alabasta, a superpower and an ancient civilization, which also had the possibility of possessing historical texts. But whether it was the whole Cake Island or Alabasta, they were only qualified, only possible. Without seeing the historical texts, Robin still had some doubts in her heart. She had been wandering for 10 years, chasing after historical texts for a full decade. But besides the underground basement of Ohara's Tree of Knowledge, where she had discovered a piece of historical text, she hadn't found any other locations. However, Zhao Xu claimed to know so many locations of historical texts. It was hard not to suspect that he was bragging, so this was also one of the reasons why Robin forced him to bring her here. If there were no historical texts, sorry, but she wouldn't listen to him like before. At first, Robin was indeed Zhao Xu and Uchiha Madara's captive, but there was a difference between captives who worked hard and those who didn't. There were even captives who worked desperately. But now, upon hearing the news about Crocodile, Robin suddenly started to believe a little. Seizing a country was not an easy task. Even Doflamingo, who was also a Shichibukai, needed a lot of calculations. Alabasta was not a small country. It had strong national power and some background related to the celestial dragons, making it more difficult to intervene compared to ordinary countries. Even Crocodile needed to plan for several years, even up to 10 years, to truly seize this country. Why would a Shichibukai spend so much time? Why not aim for a smaller and easier country? He must have something else he wanted, not just the country, but something else. Ancient weapon. Robin bit her lip slightly, squinting her eyes, and walked forward slowly. Zhao Xu, on the other hand, quietly watched Robin. Bays. Advertisement, why have you been staring at me? Robin's face blushed slightly. That gaze was too invasive, scanning her from head to toe. Because you're beautiful, Zhao Xu smirked. You're beautiful, and your clothes are beautiful too. He wasn't exaggerating. Not only was she beautiful, but her clothes. Alabasta was a desert country, with cultural customs that differed greatly from the rest of the world. Era. Dancer's attire. A short top, revealing a snow-white belly button, with long silk draped over the arms. Various gold and silver accessories adorned the slender and delicate collarbone. A long dance skirt on the lower body, swaying with each step. Robin glanced at him disdainfully. Didn't you buy this outfit? Crossing the desert while wearing something like this? You really have quite the imagination. But she didn't say much either, even though this outfit doesn't look like something you can wear to cross the desert. In the sky, the intense sunlight was blocked by the sand dust swirling above her head. Under her feet, the sand formed hard clumps, like a straight road leading forward. With each step Zhao Xu took in front, a bit more of a path appeared under his feet. Although it was said to be crossing the desert, in reality, it wasn't much different from walking in the city. So this is what they call ninjutsu. Robin squinted her eyes and thought to herself. By now, most of the Revolutionary Army knew about Uchiha Madara and Zhao Xu's abilities. They weren't devil fruit users, but rather wielded a peculiar power called ninjutsu. It had various applications, seemingly usable in any situation, be it for attack, defense, or even walking. They didn't even need to worry about drinking water. Aside from the various water-style techniques, they also had something called a storage scroll, which was enough to meet their needs. They're really strong, Robin sighed softly. Not only were they physically strong, but they also possessed an impeccable strength. Advertisement, Zhao Xu didn't pay much attention. As he continued to gaze at Robin's slender figure, treating it as a scenic view, he expanded his perception to search for the historical text. He didn't randomly choose the route to Yuba, he specifically came here. Alabasta had two pieces of historical text, one in the royal tomb and the other written in the anime, where Luffy and the others walked in the desert and accidentally fell into a ruin. What he was currently searching for was the historical text in that ruin. After all, he knew the locations of the other historical texts and could head straight to them, estimating how much time it would take. Only this one required a slow search, and he didn't know how long it would take to find it. So, he started with this one, Rainbase, Rain Dinner. Hello, is this boss Mr. Zero? We found an interesting person over here. Fortunately, his current strength was extraordinary, and his perception ability was not weak, if it all depended on luck. Of course, Crocodile had only recently arrived in Alabasta, so the prosperity of Rainbase wasn't as apparent as it would be in the future. A man wearing a fur coat and holding a cigar in the corner of his mouth picked up a Den Den Mushi. She's here? It's the woman you asked us to keep an eye on. She's arrived in Alabasta. The desert area was just too large, and it was unknown if Luffy and the others walked in a straight line, so there was no need to search slowly. But as Crocodile's base, it was not only his lair but also the center of Baroque works. He estimated that he would have no chance. Now, Zhao Xu and 720 Robin were walking on the same route as Luffy and the others did back then, scanning along the way. Buzz. In the top room of Rain Dinner. This was the largest casino in Alabasta and also Crocodile's lair. Crocodile's eyes suddenly narrowed. Crocodile narrowed his eyes. Who is it? You mean Robin? And at this moment, Chapter 151 Vivi Little Lolita, Third Watch for Automatic? Chapter 151. Vivi Little Lolita, Third Update, Seeking Automatic. There was a hint of surprise on Crocodile's face. For someone like him who rarely showed emotions, this was extremely rare. This was enough to prove his joy. Crocodile occasionally discovered some information about the true history and ultimately narrowed down the intelligence about Pluton to Alabasta. However, simply discovering the information was not enough. The information about Pluton was written in the true history, and unless there was someone who could read the true history, who could decipher it? Perhaps the world government had such a person, but he was simply impossible to obtain. Alabasta's king Nefertari Cobra might be able to interpret the true history, but based on Crocodile's judgment of this king, he believed that he would not tell him. Think about it. Who would be willing to tell an enemy who wanted to take away their country such a secret? Wano country might also know how to interpret the true history, but they were closed off from the world. Moreover, there was Kaido and the newly emerged man named Zaraki Kenpachi. He couldn't act recklessly in front of them. However, in reality, he still had a fourth option. Nico Robin, the woman known as the Devil's Child. Uchiha Madara will definitely not come out of the Goa Kingdom at a time like this. It has already become their base. Once he moves, the world government will not miss this opportunity. So, 770. Nico Robin is alone. Crocodile's eyes lit up. Of course, perhaps it wasn't certain. But so what? Besides Uchiha Madara, would he care about anyone else? Quick! Investigate Nico Robin's location, Crocodile ordered without hesitation. And at this moment, Robin looked excitedly at the huge stone in front of her, her eyes shining. Zhao Xu pursed his lips. Back then, I begged her like a dog, and now that I'm done, she finds me ugly. It took so much effort for me to find this relic underground, and now Robin completely ignores me. Robin's eyes were really shining. She stared fixedly at the historical text in front of her, as if she had seen an extraordinary delicacy. Zhao Xu, help me lift it up. After finishing reading, Robin subconsciously spoke. Advertisement, okay. Zhao Xu cooperated and grabbed the square stone, lifting it up. The historical text was carved on the stone by the ancestors of the Kazuki clan of Wano country during the blank 100 years, and then sent to various parts of the world. Its characteristic was its hardness, extremely hard, the kind that even the world government couldn't destroy. Otherwise, it wouldn't have survived for so long in the hands of the world government. With the world government's long-term blockade and the preciousness of the historical text itself, it was now very difficult to find any historical text. Robin had been wandering for 10 years, and I only found one piece. Now, seeing the second piece, it was enough to make her overjoyed. Raise it a bit higher, yes, a bit higher. Be careful, you're holding a precious artifact. If it breaks, how will you take responsibility? Robin casually commanded while subconsciously speaking. Zhao Xu. Forget it, I forgive you for your impatience and unsatisfied desire for the historical text, and for being within reach but out of grasp. Those idioms I used just now don't seem to fit this situation. But looking at Robin's expression, it seems similar to those situations. Could it be that this is the best battlefield sanctuary in Robin's heart? After half a day had passed, Robin meticulously transcribed the small characters on top of the historical text, copying them onto a piece of paper. She then meticulously reviewed them over and over again, finally letting out a sigh of relief. In reality, although the historical text was enormous, the handwriting was not small. In Zhao Xu's opinion, at most, it could only fill about 1 or 2 pages of notebook paper. He didn't know what charm these words held that made Robin spend a full 6 or 7 hours reading them. All right, we should leave now. Zhao Xu stretched lazily. We still have another piece of historical text to find. Okay. Robin nodded excitedly, her face flushed. Now, she no longer had the prematurely mature expression she used to have, but instead had a lively look befitting a girl her age. Oh, Zhao Xu. Robin suddenly frowned. Yes? Could you help me use sand to block the hole we came through? Robin hesitated for a moment and said, I'm worried that the ruins here will be destroyed by others. It's better not to leave our entrance. Ruins were supposed to be protected, after all. But obviously, if the world government found out about the historical text here, they would definitely send troops to bring it back to the Holy Land of Marijoy. This was definitely not the outcome Robin wanted to see. Advertisement, I understand. Zhao Xu nodded. Their next destination was Alabasta's capital, Alubarna. In reality, Zhao Xu no longer cared as much about the other piece of historical text. The other one recorded the location of Pluton, something Crocodile was pursuing, not Robin. But even if he said it out loud, Robin wouldn't believe it too much. After all, besides Robin, no one else could interpret the historical text. Then how did you, Zhao Xu, know that the location of Pluton was recorded here? It should be her. With an illusion, they ignored Robin and Zhao Xu. Naturally, there were soldiers around the royal tomb, but for Zhao Xu, they were almost completely useless. After finding the historical text, Robin immediately immersed herself in interpreting it. Consider it a sightseeing trip, a little girl in the palace. As he walked, suddenly, Zhao Xu didn't mind and casually told her not to make too much noise and attract soldiers before leaving directly. So the two of them approached, and Zhao Xu led Robin towards the royal tomb. The palace of the Desert Kingdom had a unique style that was different from other palaces and was worth seeing. She was wearing an elegant desert dress, tasteful and cute, with her hair tied in a ponytail, cheerful and lively. Zhao Xu walked around, stopping from time to time. After all, he wasn't afraid of soldiers discovering him. He could just use another illusion if necessary. The burial hall of the royal tomb was where the historical text was located. Who are you? Why are you here? Zhao Xu turned his head and saw a beautiful little girl. Robin was immersed in interpretation and didn't care about anything else. He might as well take a stroll around, as he hadn't really explored this desert kingdom yet. If worse came to worst, couldn't he just fight his way out? This place was not like the previous ruins, and Zhao Xu didn't have to waste time here. Chapter 152 The Bad Man Who Grabbed the Little Girl Lollipop, fourth more to be automatic. Chapter 152 The Villain Who Stole the Little Girl's Lollipop, fourth update requested. Nefertari Vivi, Princess of Alabasta, former member of the Straw Hat Pirates, is now. She is 9 years old. Who are you? Why haven't I seen you in the palace before? Vivi squinted her eyes, a hint of confusion flashing in her eyes. Well, because I just arrived, Zhao Xu calmly nodded. Just arrived? A newly arrived guard? Vivi tilted her head, looking adorable. No, a newly arrived rogue, Zhao Xu calmly replied. A rogue? What's a rogue? Vivi blinked her eyes. It's difficult for me to explain this question to you clearly. In short, it refers to those who often harass little girls. They even steal little girls' lollipops. Zhao Xu thought for a moment and said, they're bad people. Isn't that bad? Vivi stared at him with round eyes, surprised. You're right to say that, Zhao Xu nodded, and then, in the next second, he took out a lollipop from his pocket. Do you want to eat it? The lollipop was as big as a palm. with a long stick that was almost as long as Vivi's arm. The colorful candy on it resembled a rainbow, spinning together, finally condensing in the center. And Vivi's eyes, like the lines of the lollipop, focused on the center. This was the candy Zhao Xu had stolen from the sky before, the finest of its kind, even worthy of being offered as a tribute. Alabasta was also an ancient country with a good economic strength, but the Nefertari family had strict rules. She couldn't eat this kind of thing regularly. However, Vivi swallowed her saliva and said in a tone that seemed like a martyr's sacrifice, "Father said I can't eat other people's things." I see. Zhao Xu fell silent for a moment, then put the lollipop aside. "It's not mine anymore, I don't want it now." "Then I'll take it," Vivi immediately added, leaning closer. She tore open the wrapper and licked it with delight. Her mouth was small, making it difficult to fit the whole lollipop in, so she could only lick it bit by bit. Her eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a lazy and content expression, truly adorable. However, not long after, a hand reached out from the side and snatched the lollipop from Vivi's hand in a swift motion. Huh? Vivi was stunned, looking at Zhao Xu with a dumbfounded expression. "Don't look at me like that," Zhao Xu smiled. "I already told you, I'm a person who likes to tease girls, even someone who steals little girls' lollipops." "Then, I'll lick it." Advertisement. Zhao Xu smiled. "You." The little girl became angry, her face puffed up, but she didn't know any insulting words, so she could only. You bad person." "I am indeed a bad person," Zhao Xu laughed and continued licking. "Isn't it nice for everyone to eat a lollipop together? If anything, I can treat you to some other lollipops later." Zhao Xu's mouth curled up, with a meaningful smirk. Seeing this, Vivi's eyes turned red, and then the little girl suddenly pounced on him. "Give me back my lollipop." Meanwhile, "Are you sure Nico Robin is inside?" Crocodile squinted his eyes, looking at the heavily guarded royal tomb. "Yes," Mr. One nodded. "According to the intelligence, she's inside." Although Robin had a lot of vigilance against being followed, it was impossible for her to kill all the street vendors along the way and erase her own tracks. After all, it wasn't necessary, it was enough to discover the pursuit. With her tracking ability alone, Baroque Works couldn't track her, but that didn't mean they couldn't find her through investigation after the fact. In fact, it was almost the same when they discovered Robin before. "I discovered her presence, but couldn't find her trace, so I could only slowly search behind. Anyway, as long as Robin doesn't keep wandering around and has a destination to stay, she will eventually be found." Normally, Robin is accustomed to covert operations, but that's because she rarely stays in one place for a long time. Even if someone discovers her, there's no time to track her. But now she has a destination for the historical text, so she can only endure this risk. Otherwise, she wouldn't have to wait until the world government and the Marines are busy dealing with Zaraki Kenpachi, Kaido, Gilgamesh, and others before requesting to set sail. Based on the estimated time, she has given herself enough time to read it and then leave. But now, Crocodile has appeared. His appearance has made the entire Baroque Works studio more excited. Our boss is a Shichibukai. The ideal country promised by the studio, with the presence of a Shichibukai, seems more real. This is enough to make the Baroque Works studio excited and give it their all. "Please give us flowers." Originally, Crocodile didn't want to show up. After all, the Baroque Works studio has executed many tasks that require him to stay hidden. But now it has reached a point where it's enough to expose his identity. Advertisement. "So what if I'm exposed? As long as I get Pluton." Crocodile squinted his eyes. "Double check, did anyone see Nico Robin go in?" "Yes, there seems to be a man accompanying her," Mr. One whispered. The surrounding soldiers didn't react. "I don't know what's going on." "Good," Crocodile nodded. "Boss, what should we do?" Mr. One asked. "What should we do?" Crocodile narrowed his eyes, decisively making a move. The next second, sandstorms filled the air, turning into sand waves rushing towards the tomb. Oh, of course, we have to break in." Boom, the earth shook. "What's happening?" Robin was stunned, almost falling down. Only then did she snap out of her obsession with the historical text. "What's going on?" Once a battle breaks out in a place like this, the relic's here. The next second, a gust of sand blew in, quickly condensing into a human form in front of Robin. Robin glanced at the surrounding relics, her eyes filled with worry. If even he encountered trouble, then she couldn't peacefully read the historical text here. She looked towards the entrance, where the guards' cries of pain and the sounds of battle could be faintly heard. Robin exclaimed, "Crocodile. If they're weaker, I'll quietly capture them and prevent them from affecting the relics here." She should escape as soon as possible. Robin squinted her eyes, listening carefully. This trip itself requires concealing her whereabouts, and it's best for her not to show herself. Did something happen to Zhao Xu? Robin instinctively wondered, but then shook her head. No, it should be someone else. Zhao Xu had confidently walked in with her all the way. 5:18. Should I see who exactly has come? Although it probably wasn't Zhao Xu, now that someone has caused a commotion, it's not the time for her to leisurely read the historical text. The sound of sandstorms, Robin's pupils contracted. In her ears, there were already faint sounds of killing, screams, and... Chapter 153 Robin, I'm coming to you, 5th watch for automatic. Chapter 153. Robin, I've come to find you. 5th update, seeking automatic. I didn't expect our demon child miss to know my name, Crocodile smirked coldly. The name of the 7 warlords of the sea, who doesn't know? Robin's face changed slightly as she took a deep breath. Is that so? I thought I was the one with the worst reputation among the 7 warlords of the sea. Crocodile squinted his eyes and looked at Robin. Although he was joking to some extent, what he said was true. The 7 warlords of the sea all have their own strength, but even just looking at bounties, it's known that Crocodile is at the lowest level among them. Of course, it doesn't mean he's weak. In fact, Crocodile is very strong. Having a Logia ability is a threat no matter where it is. Ignoring the enemy's attacks, his ability is capable of creating disasters. 500 million. Even a useless person can achieve great things with this kind of ability, let alone someone like Crocodile. However, the weakness of Crocodile's ability is also very obvious. He's afraid of water, which is almost intolerable in this era of the Great Voyage. That's why he became the one with the lowest bounty among the Shichibukai. If it weren't for his Logia ability, he might not have been invited by the world government. But in this desert country, he is invincible. Why did you come here? Robin swallowed and squinted her eyes. I came here for the same reason you came here. Crocodile smirked and then looked at the historical text beside him. This is the historical text, right? Recording the existence of the ancient weapon, Pluton's location. Crocodile suddenly turned his head to look at Robin. Nico Robin, the demon child. You've been here for quite some time, you should have translated it, right? Robin bit her lip. Yes, she had already translated it. Even as Crocodile said, what this historical text recorded was indeed the location of Pluton. This historical text records the blank 100 years of history. Robin gritted her teeth and said, it's not the location of the Yonko that you want to know. She tried to argue, attempting to deceive him. However, Crocodile didn't even listen and directly sneered, it's not the location of Pluton that the Revolutionary Army is so eager to pursue. Robin's mouth twitched, and she couldn't refute it. Advertisement because her current identity is indeed a member of the Revolutionary Army. As a member of the Revolutionary Army, if she doesn't focus on the revolution or handle internal affairs in Goa Kingdom, why did she come here? If it were her, she wouldn't believe it either, but in fact, this really has nothing to do with the Revolutionary Army. And at the same time, it really does record the location of the ancient weapon. I've been pursuing the historical text all along, and I only came here after discovering the historical text, Robin said in a low voice, making a final effort. Yeah, you just happened to discover the historical text of Pluton, Crocodile sneered disdainfully. Robin's face stiffened, and she said straightforwardly, aren't you afraid of retaliation from the Revolutionary Army? I'm already here. Do you think I'm still afraid? Crocodile impatiently said, my patience is limited. Do you really think I won't lay a hand on you? In an instant, his gaze became sharp. What if you do lay a hand on me? Robin also became tough at this moment. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? After all, Robin had participated in several major battles before, and she even fought alongside Uchiha Madara against the Marines. Although she was just shouting, 666, from behind, she didn't contribute anything to the battle. But that doesn't mean she's afraid of his 7 warlords of the sea. 6 flower. Robin crossed her arms. Crocodile's eyes narrowed, and 6 arms grew from his body. In the next second, the 6 arms grabbed Crocodile's neck, arms, and legs respectively, and exerted force together, causing his body to bend backward. This move is enough to break the enemy's bones. However, Robin's expression did not improve but became more serious. Swish. The arms grabbed nothing, and Crocodile turned into sand and then reformed. Logia Devil Fruit. It's really tricky. Robin squinted her eyes and sighed. Her ability is strong in a way, but not particularly strong. Robin is a Paramecia user of the Flower Fruit ability, which allows her to make any part of her body bloom like a flower on any tangible object within her line of sight, and use it for attacks or other purposes. Advertisement, however, no matter how much she says, it's just ordinary joint attacks. Facing a Logia user who cannot be attacked with joint techniques, her ability is completely useless. If only I had Haki. Robin muttered. Haki is the power for people to grasp demon fruit power with their own bodies, but unfortunately, although Robin relies on joint techniques in battle, she is not the type to directly confront opponents. In addition, she has not received a systematic education like the one on Ruskin Island, so it is difficult for her to awaken armament Haki. However, now, without Haki, she can't even attack Crocodile. It's difficult to use sea stone weapons either. Robin's ability relies on suddenly growing arms, and these arms don't come with weapons. History is more important than her own life. Crocodile's arm turned into a sand blade and suddenly attacked. She was prepared to use her own body to block Crocodile's attack, or at the very least, reduce its power. A sand wave, like a sharp sword, rushed straight towards Robin. Desert Saber. Zhao Xu. Not to mention, she herself is a devil fruit user. That figure paused for a moment, then turned his head and revealed a smile. Robin, I'm just here to see a historical monument, but you're a bit slow, so I came to find you. However, after a while, the expected attack still hadn't arrived. She would be a criminal against history. From the looks of it, you don't plan on surrendering peacefully. Crocodile's eyes turned cold. Well, since it's just a translation, you don't need any arms or legs. If crocodiles attack were to destroy them, a storm gathered. Behind her was the historical monument 5.2, composed of precious remnants of culture. Not good. Robin's face changed slightly, and she was about to dodge, but her footsteps suddenly stopped. In the next second, subconsciously, Robin looked over and saw a man standing in front of her, reaching out to block the massive sand blade. Gritting her teeth, Robin turned around, facing the attack. Chapter 154. The fist is really easy to dodge. Chapter 154. The fist is indeed easy to dodge, first update. Robin, it's just a historical text, you're too slow. So, I came to find you, Zhao Xu said with a light laugh, his voice calm and relaxed, as if he were asking why you hadn't eaten. However, in his hand, he firmly held a sand that was sharper than a razor blade. The sand danced wildly, but no matter what, it couldn't escape his grasp. Zhao Xu. Robin heard that familiar voice and instantly breathed a sigh of relief. But immediately, she became alert again. Be careful, the opponent is Crocodile, a Logia user with the sand fruit ability. Zhao Xu turned slightly and looked at the man wearing a fur coat and a golden hook on his hand. Then, bang, he clenched his palm and crushed all the sand. Are you Zhao Xu? Uchiha Madara's younger brother? Crocodile squinted his eyes and looked at Zhao Xu. It seems like your revolutionary army really wants to obtain Pluton. Robin was involved in the Goa Kingdom incident, pacifying the entire country. And Zhao Xu, he was simply Uchiha Madara's younger brother. These two together. A hint of excitement flashed in Crocodile's eyes. This historical text was probably true. However, Zhao Xu and Robin exchanged a glance, their eyes filled with helplessness. Well, they really couldn't refute these words. In fact, if it weren't for Robin thinking that Uchiha Madara was so powerful that they didn't even need Pluton, she might have doubted whether Uchiha Madara and Zhao Xu had any plans for Pluton. After all, that kind of thing didn't seem like something that should be left behind. But now they really didn't think that way. Let it go, it's not worth bothering with him. Zhao Xu shrugged and said to Robin, there's a big commotion outside. If it weren't for his subordinates blocking the way, someone would have rushed in long ago. We're not suitable to appear in this kind of situation. Let's get ready to leave. Robin nodded. She also knew that if the two of them, as members of the Revolutionary Army, appeared here, it would cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Especially since this historical text really did record the location of Pluton. Don't even think about leaving, Crocodile's face was fanatical. Leave Robin behind. When facing Robin, I still need to show some mercy, but when facing you. Advertisement. The next second, a sandstorm erupted. Furious winds swept through, and the sand became like knives. Your brother won't come here to save you now, swish. The sand blades flew, slashing straight towards Zhao Xu. Save me. Zhao Xu's mouth twitched. Boom. Countless sand blades came crashing, but in front of Zhao Xu, they made a series of collision sounds. The sand blades stopped in front of Zhao Xu, but they didn't touch his body at all. Why would I need my older brother to save me? Zhao Xu looked at Crocodile's furrowed brow and sighed softly. No one knew that among Uchiha Madara, Gilgamesh, Saitama. Among these identities, the strongest one was actually Zhao Xu. The person named Zhao Xu possesses Uchiha Madara's ninjutsu, Gilgamesh's noble phantasm, Saitama's physical abilities, Zaraki Kenpachi's ryotsu and swordsmanship, and also Aitu Makoto's scum power? He himself is equivalent to the sum of countless identities today. Uchiha Madara is renowned throughout the world. Gilgamesh is audacious and arrogant. Saitama scares pirates away in all directions. However, all of this is nothing compared to Zhao Xu, who quietly and anonymously relies solely on the title of Uchiha Madara's younger brother to make his way. Rinbo. Border prison. By using Rinbo to split off his shadow, he can use the shadow to block the opponent's attacks or launch a surprise attack. Go. In the next second, Crocodile's expression changed, and his whole body suddenly turned into sand, scattering in all directions. Did I receive an attack? Crocodile was stunned, then a hint of seriousness flashed across his face. After reforming his body, he carefully looked at this young man. He is almost unknown on the sea, and if it weren't for the title of Uchiha Madara's younger brother, few people would probably recognize him. B. Advertisement. Well, indeed, being Uchiha Madara's younger brother, you still have some ability, Crocodile said coldly. But do you really think that this level of power can defeat me? Now hand over Robin, and I might spare your life. He is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, how could he not be able to defeat an unknown person? Even if he is Uchiha Madara's younger brother, it's the same. Robin's face also showed a hint of seriousness. The title of 7 warlords of the sea is not just a small name. It means being a pirate strong enough to fight against the 4 emperors. Perhaps he won't win, but he has the ability to fight. If it were Uchiha Madara himself, Robin wouldn't worry at all. But Zhao Xu and Crocodile is a Logia user. Without hockey, how can you win against someone with a power level of 570? Zhao Xu, should we retreat first? Robin hesitated. It's fine, I'll just defeat him with one punch, Zhao Xu said nonchalantly. Rinbo. Border prison cannot seal ninjutsu and cannot disperse a Logia user's body, but that doesn't mean he can't do anything. In the next second, the seal technique's seal appeared on his arm. Ninja's sealing technique can affect energy, ninjutsu, and is a means to attack Logia users. A fist? Crocodile sneered. Do you think I can't dodge something like that? Fists are indeed quite easy to dodge, Zhao Xu surprisingly agreed with a nod. In the next second, he suddenly appeared behind Crocodile. Boom! A punch was thrown, and Crocodile was heavily blasted into the ground, causing cracks to spread out, almost destroying the entire room. Crocodile himself instantly turned pale, spitting out blood, and fainted. Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Defeated in an instant, Zhao Xu calmly stood up and casually shook his hand. What's hard to dodge is my fist. Chapter 155 Going to the Fishman Island. Chapter 155. Heading to the Fishman Island, second update requested automatically. Crocodile's strength lies in his natural advantage, accounting for 50%. The remaining 50% belongs to the desert nation of Alabasta. In the desert, he can fight several opponents of the same level by himself. However, the problem is that this is a royal tomb, and there isn't much sand that he can utilize. Furthermore, if there is a method to counter Logia abilities, he can be considered one of the people that the Shichibukai can deal with. One punch. Just one punch defeated Crocodile. Robin blinked her beautiful eyes, astonishment evident in them. In fact, no one, including her, who knows a little about Zhao Xu's strength, expected him to be this strong. Can the 4 emperors easily defeat a Shichibukai like him? Robin deeply doubted this. A person who can be taken down with one punch by the 4 emperors is not qualified to become one of the 7 warlords of the sea that the Marines can recruit. But now, just how strong is Zhao Xu? With such strength, why did he hardly make a move from beginning to end? Robin, have you finished reading the historical text? Zhao Xu suddenly spoke up. Ah, yes. Robin was taken aback, then quickly nodded. Then let's go. Zhao Xu shrugged. While there's no one here, let's retreat. Although Alabasta's strength is average, there are still a few formidable warriors. Koza of the Falcon, Kaku of the Wolf. No one is coming to the royal tomb now because Mr. One is blocking the entrance. However, it's unknown how long he can hold on by himself. Zhao Xu and Robin are not afraid of them, but there's no need to expose their whereabouts here. Alright, let's go. Robin quickly reacted and immediately nodded. Advertisement then. She saw Zhao Xu casually pick up Crocodile. You want to take him with us? Robin's mouth twitched, unsure of what expression to show. Of course, see if we can sell him for some money. Zhao Xu nodded, then sighed lightly. I've already made a move, so I can't leave empty-handed. After all, the person I saved hasn't even said, thank you for saving me, I'm grateful and can only offer myself, yet. Upon hearing this, Robin's face turned red. Then she glared fiercely at Zhao Xu and walked over with big strides. I would never say such things. Escaping from the royal tomb is not difficult. With Zhao Xu's illusion abilities, it's easy to confuse the soldiers and leave in front of them. On the other hand, Mr. One has been guarding there all along. By the time Zhao Xu and Robin left Alabasta and arrived at the coastline, they had already learned from Alabasta's announcement that he had been defeated and captured. Although Mr. One is not weak, he ultimately fell into the fate of being captured when faced with an endless stream of soldiers, plus a few exceptional experts among them. It was the revolutionaries brought by Zhao Xu that looked shocked. How did their superior go out for a stroll and bring back 10 Shichibukai? Fortunately, the revolutionary army also has some seastone handcuffs, otherwise they would think their leader has gone crazy. Is it really okay for you to bring the Shichibukai so casually? And where did you bring the Shichibukai from? The crowd was astonished in their hearts, but they didn't dare to ask too much. They just treated it as one of the revolutionary army's actions and silently set sail. On the other hand, Robin squinted her eyes and asked, Zhao Xu, what do you plan to do? The Shichibukai are not our allies. They might even become enemies. In fact, it should be said that they are enemies. If it weren't for the sudden rampage of the world destroyer Brindivaldo, attacking the celestial dragons, the Marines would have already mobilized the Shichibukai to besiege the Goa kingdom. Although a treaty has been signed now, it is only a temporary measure and will eventually be torn apart. The Shichibukai are enemies of the revolutionary army. At the same time, although the revolutionary army opposes the world government, it doesn't mean they stand with the pirates. Advertisement occasionally, they also have to eliminate pirates. It's a pity to kill him. Zhao Xu shook his head. I finally had a chance to take action. But shouldn't there be some gains? What should we do? Robin frowned. Let's just lock him up for now. Zhao Xu casually said, I'm not afraid of him causing trouble. You may not be afraid, but we are. Robin's mouth twitched, but she ultimately didn't say those words. She shook her head and continued to look at the route. The revolutionary army doesn't have as well-equipped crew members as the Marines, nor can they guarantee their strength. This doesn't mean that the revolutionary army lacks top-notch navigators, they do exist. But this operation was just Robin's wishful thinking. Borrowing the revolutionary army's ships and manpower was one thing, but don't expect to have the best members. After all, the revolutionary army needs those members for themselves. So she can only take charge herself, relying on the self-taught knowledge of navigation she possesses. Fortunately, she is not lacking in that knowledge. The next stop is Fishman Island. Robin squinted her eyes. Fishman Island in the historical text. She couldn't help but glance in Zhao Xu's direction. Now she no longer doubts the credibility of Zhao Xu's words. Just by casually visiting Alabasta, she was able to find 2 historical texts. Why wouldn't she believe it? It's a pity that he refuses to continue taking me to find them. Is there not enough time? What is missing? Robin lightly hummed, revealing a rare hint of a daughter's coquettishness. Time is really running out. Zhao Xu sighed. I can't even find time to pick up girls. I really am a busy person. On the other hand, Charlotte Linlin has already started moving. If it weren't for the fact that going to Fishman Island is the route to enter the New World and is on the same line as where Gilgamesh is, he would have already finished this journey. After all, the historical text is right here and won't run away. It's no big deal, he can just take Robin out for a walk next time. Consider it a date. Shrugging his shoulders, Zhao Xu quietly walked into the prison cell in the cabin when no one noticed. The cooldown time for the distinguished heavenly gods has already passed. Chapter 156 Crocodile escaped? The third change asks for automatic. Chapter 156. Did Crocodile escape? Third update requested. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Crocodile gasped for breath, but couldn't muster any anger in his eyes. The most terrifying aspect of the distinguished heavenly gods is that they don't change a person's thoughts or affect their potential. Right now, he knew that he had fallen into Zhao Xu's trap, but he had no way to do anything about it. He couldn't help but feel an involuntary urge to obey the other's commands. This strange contrast truly made him feel hopeless, wishing for divine retribution. Unfortunately, even the reason for his anger had been erased from his heart. HMPH. Crocodile finally gritted his teeth and fiercely manipulated the sand, striking the sea with force before turning and leaving. Now he had been released by Zhao Xu and had regained his freedom. But he pretended to be escaping. Just a mere pair of sea-stone handcuffs. I'm a Shichibukai, so it's normal to escape, right? No one would suspect, except Crocodile himself. Gilgamesh, huh? I wonder what it means for the master to call me to him and secretly obey his commands. Could it be that the Revolutionary Army wants to target Gilgamesh and use me as an insider? Crocodile squinted his eyes and happily prepared to steal a ship and sail towards the New World. Work, the master's orders are the most important. It smells good. Meanwhile, Zhao Xu and his group had already begun to enter the underwater. I didn't expect you to actually find Pluton. Robin's face was filled with complexity. Entering the underwater required coating the ship, which meant applying a special bubble-like layer to the surface of the ship to allow it to navigate underwater. Normally, this process would take a week or even longer. However, for Zhao Xu, who was racing against time, it had to be accelerated. So, he found Pluton. Robin didn't know what to say. The vice captain of the Pirate King, working as a ship-coating craftsman in Saboti Archipelago? Of course, Pluton's coating was faster than that of an ordinary craftsman, but he was still just one person. Advertisement. So Zhao Xu dragged Crocodile around to find craftsmen. As one of the 7 warlords of the sea, no one dared to refuse him. After finding more than a dozen craftsmen, they managed to coat the ship in a day. It's a pity that Crocodile accidentally escaped because of this. Robin shook her head. Although he had handcuffs on, he still managed to escape. Truly worthy of being the legendary 7 warlords of the sea. Robin didn't doubt it. Despite being no match for Zhao Xu, Crocodile was still one of the top powerhouses in the sea. It's normal for him to escape from mere handcuffs. Even Golden Lion managed to escape from Impel Down, which was much more difficult than Crocodile's escape. No problem, if we see him, we'll just catch him again, Juha said. After all, Crocodile was released by him, so why would he care? We need to speed up our actions. Crocodile might call in the Marines, and we don't know if this coating is reliable or not. Robin said solemnly, if they find out you're here, the Marines might go all out to surround us. Remember, you are Uchiha Madara's brother, and we're already close to the naval headquarters. If Zhao Xu's identity is exposed, Sengoku wouldn't hesitate to order a full-scale attack. For the sake of, even if it's just a tiny bit of influence on Uchiha Madara. Perhaps Crocodile feels embarrassed about his mistake, so he chooses not to mention it, Zhao Xu chuckled. How is that possible? Robin forced a smile. For pirates, is pride really that important? Maybe, it really is that important, Zhao Xu smiled. Let's not talk about this anymore. Instead, let's take a look outside when we have the time to worry about such things. Diving into the deep sea, a tranquil and azure underwater world presented itself, a breathtaking and peculiar sight. Schools of fish, sea creatures, and strange marine organisms swam around, far more beautiful than any aquarium. You really are fearless, Robin forced a smile, but she still followed Zhao Xu's words and looked towards the world beyond the coating. Azure, clear, and beautiful. In such a beautiful world, it would be even better if I had a boyfriend by my side. I could lean against him, lie in his embrace, feel his arms around me, and enjoy this stunning scenery together. Robin turned her expressionless face and stared straight at Zhao Xu. Please don't make up my thoughts so casually, thank you. Advertisement. Zhao Xu chuckled lightly and turned his head. The words just now were spoken by Zhao Xu into Robin's ear, using Robin's voice. As the ship continued to sink, more and more peculiar sights appeared before everyone. Breathtaking to the point of unimaginable, but there was also a sense of danger. Of course, for the crew on this ship, they didn't need to pay attention to such things. And finally, the ship arrived at Fishman Island. The first thing that caught their eyes was a giant tree. Yarukaman mangrove. This towering tree seemed to have existed for eternity. It absorbed sunlight from above the sea and released it at the roots, 10,000 meters below the sea, illuminating the deep sea beneath. Because of this, Fishman Island had sunlight in the cycle of day and night. The local fishmen even described this phenomenon as the blessing of the sun. So this is Yarukaman mangrove. How magnificent! Robin's face was filled with awe. She had long known about the existence of this tree from various documents. But after seeing it with her own eyes, she felt that the descriptions in those texts were so pale. Zhao Xu nodded in agreement. The grandeur of nature can sometimes surpass people's imagination. Such a country, no wonder it has a rich history. Robin took a deep breath, her eyes filled with joy. Zhao Xu nodded and smiled. This country not only had a rich history but also possessed Poseidon. One of the three ancient weapons, and the only one that Zhao Xu had encountered before his transmigration. An ancient weapon that was still alive. Suddenly, Zhao Xu's eyes flickered, and he reached out his hand. When he withdrew his hand, he was holding a spear. Where did this attack come from? Robin frowned. It's not aimed at us. Zhao Xu calmly looked at the spear, which had a heart-shaped envelope attached to it, clearly a love letter. But we can still retaliate. Chapter 157 The Journey of Molesting the Princess. Chapter 157 The Journey of Teasing the Princess, 4th update requested. The Fishman Island floats in the deep sea, surrounded by a huge double-layered bubble membrane shield. From a distance, it looks like a fantasy world. Similar to Sky Island, outsiders usually have to go through immigration inspection, otherwise they will be arrested by the Poseidon Army of the Dragon Palace Kingdom. There's no way around it. I guess they were forced by those pirates who secretly capture slaves. Zhao Xu and Robin are not afraid of the Poseidon Army on the Fishman Island, but if they don't enter the Fishman Island through the correct path, the coating will automatically peel off and merge with the shield on the Fishman Island. At this depth of 10,000 meters underwater, once the coating is removed, it can be said that it's basically impossible to escape, unless you are also a fishman. The main text of history is in the sea forest northeast of the Fishman Street. After entering the country, you can go and see it yourself, Zhao Xu calmly said. Aren't you coming with me? Robin slightly tilted her head. After all, Zhao Xu had taken her there twice before. The first time was a relic. If I don't go with you, how can I find the location? Zhao Xu glanced at her. The second time was a royal tomb. If I don't take you there, can you easily get in alone? But you don't need to take me here. Anyway, you can see it directly when you go. Why should I go with you? Robin blushed slightly. She was used to it, wasn't she? Speaking of which, Zhao Xu didn't really like to read historical texts. He wasn't very interested in history, so why did he subconsciously feel that he should go too? Or did she want him to go? Do you have something to do? Robin coughed twice. Since we have nothing else to do, let's go to the sea forest together. It's better not to cause any trouble here, otherwise we really won't be able to leave. I'll just read a historical text, it'll be quick. Before she could finish her sentence, Robin blushed under Zhao Xu's gaze. It really will be quick, Robin couldn't help but say. Yeah, quick. If it wasn't for me running over, you would have been captured by crocodile, Zhao Xu said impatiently. You have no sense of the passage of time when you're reading a book. In fact, Zhao Xu had no idea why that short historical text could be read for so long. It's only about 1,000 words, which would only take half a page in a novel. Advertisement even with translation, it shouldn't take too long, right? However, Robin could sit here for half a day, even feeling like she could sit for 3 to 5 days without even eating. Fools who can't appreciate the beauty of history. Robin muttered to herself in a low voice, blushing and shaking her head, not wanting to argue with this guy. Zhao Xu didn't mind either. In fact, he had something to do as well. He looked down at the spear and love letter in his hand and smiled without saying a word. Passing the immigration inspection was not a big problem. Although the Fishman Kingdom had a monarchy system, it had little to do with the Revolutionary Army. They had quite a bit of conflict with the world government, so they naturally wouldn't target the Revolutionary Army. However, when Zhao Xu reported his name, it caused quite a stir. So that's Uchiha Madara's younger brother, the younger brother of that murderer. How did he end up in our Dragon Palace Kingdom? Looking quite thin and weak, is he really the brother of that fierce man? Many of the Dragon Palace guards couldn't help but look towards Zhao Xu, causing his eyes to twitch. They even couldn't help but have some doubts. Did I make a mistake in playing the role of Uchiha Madara's brother? It feels like I'm being treated like a giant panda. Robin sneaked a laugh from behind and quietly slipped away. She still had to go and read the historical text. Not long after, a tall fishman rode on a small whale and approached. You must be Mr. Zhao Xu. Welcome to our Fishman Island. Oh, I am the Fishman King, Neptune. Neptune let out a chuckle and warmly said. Hello. Zhao Xu smiled. I didn't expect the king himself to come directly. After all, you are a member of the Revolutionary Army, and the brother of that person. Neptune laughed, being quite straightforward. Advertisement. It seems that we revolutionaries are not very friendly with your world government allies, Zhao Xu said meaningfully. Flowers please. And now he's preparing to flirt with Shirahoshi. That's the monster who was able to defeat the entire army, including the Fleet Admiral, admirals, dozens of vice admirals, 10 warships, and even veterans like Garp and Suru, all by himself. We have connections with some pirates too, but that doesn't affect the fact that we are allies of the world government. Neptune didn't mind, he just smiled and said, for example, Jinbei, one of the Shichibukai, is our national treasure. Indeed, he is a king, able to speak appropriately to different people. Who doesn't know that Jinbei joined the 7 warlords of the sea to protect the fishmen? Speaking of which, is this journey to find the historical text with Robin going to turn into a journey of flirting with princesses? Neptune waved his hand generously. Whatever it is, if you need any help, just say it. It seems like your daughter is causing some trouble. Although the Fishman Island and the world government have some grievances, they joined the world government as an ally 200 years ago. Do you have any business coming to our Ryugu kingdom? Neptune asked warmly. He certainly didn't know Zhao Xu's true strength, but just the identity of Uchiha Madara's brother is enough to make him bow down. The kings in One Piece are actually quite powerless, whether it's Doflamingo in Dressrosa or Cobra in Alabasta, they always have to worry about this and that when facing real powerhouses. The person in front of Zhao Xu is even more pitiful, he even has to raise the pirate flag to defend his country. In Alabasta, he went to flirt with Vivi. Zhao Xu squinted his eyes and said, finding it somewhat amusing. But it's not me who needs help, it's you. Zhao Xu's mouth curled up as he held the spear he had just grabbed. Sort of. Zhao Xu smiled. Chapter 158 Princess Shirahoshi, I am here to shoot you. Chapter 158. Princess Shirahoshi, I'm here to bombard you. 5th update, seeking automatic. Upon hearing Zhao Xu's words, Neptune couldn't help but sigh. The flying pirate crew, Vanderdecken IX's intimidating proposal, has been going on for quite some time, and almost the entire mermaid kingdom is aware of it. But what can he do? Vanderdecken IX's whereabouts are unpredictable, and his strength is formidable. Neptune is no match for him. He just didn't expect that even Zhao Xu, who had just arrived not long ago, would be aware of it. He didn't think about trying to argue or cover up the truth, as he didn't have the mentality of a human king. After all, Zhao Xu came with Vanderdecken IX's love letter. What was there to argue about? But this trouble is not ordinary, Neptune sighed lightly. Can you help me solve this trouble? Sure. Zhao Xu nodded, but this is underwater. Neptune was a bit skeptical. It's just a small advantage, nothing significant, Zhao Xu said nonchalantly. Indeed, underwater merfolk have their advantages, but so what? Does that mean that ants can defeat a real dragon underwater? Merfolk don't need to breathe and can ignore some of the water's resistance, even using it to enhance their attacks. But that doesn't mean they're the rulers. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a single merfolk among the 4 emperors. In the end, merfolk have been oppressed by humans to the point where they can only survive underwater, and even the underwater world could be captured and enslaved. While they do have advantages, the gap is not insurmountable. Neptune fell silent for a moment. He also knew this, although he didn't want to admit it. Can he do it? He is just Zhao Xu, not Uchiha Madara. Of course, Neptune didn't bring up such a question. Even if Zhao Xu fails, he can still do his best to rescue him. Or even if he doesn't rescue him, Vanderdecken IX wouldn't dare to do anything to Zhao Xu, unless he wants to die. Advertisement, of course, we won't work for free. We still need to discuss compensation, Zhao Xu smiled. How much money? 1 billion berries, 2 billion berries. Neptune didn't care about such small amounts of money. The Mermaid Kingdom has a large number of deep-sea specialties. If it weren't for the lack of good sales channels for merfolk, Neptune could be considered one of the wealthiest people. But even if there are no good sales channels, it doesn't mean he will be poor. Do you think the Revolutionary Army lacks money? Zhao Xu smiled and then continued without waiting for Neptune's response. Of course, we do. But what we lack is not 1 or 2 billion berries, but a long-term and stable income. Neptune frowned and asked, what do you want? Cooperation, win-win. Zhao Xu smiled and said, merfolk have a natural disadvantage on the surface and find it difficult to have a perfect sales channel. But we, the Revolutionary Army, have it. You want me to cooperate with your Revolutionary Army? Neptune was taken aback. Of course, Zhao Xu showed a smile. What I like the most is mutual benefit and win-win. That's right, this is a tradition from Zhao Xu's past life. In addition to this, there is also the principle of setting aside disputes when poor and striving for them when prosperous. Laugh. Neptune's brow relaxed slightly. Honestly, Zhao Xu's request was also what the Fishman country hoped for. Even if it's not much compensation, he also wanted to gain some trading channels. As for cooperating with the Revolutionary Army, the anger brought to the Fishmen by the world government is not insignificant. But when it comes to negotiations, even if the other party speaks to your heart, you can't easily show joy. So Neptune put on a thoughtful expression, his face full of contemplation. Zhao Xu smiled and casually said, by the way, do you know why Vanderdecken IX insists on pursuing Princess Shirahoshi, whom he has only met a few times? That's because when Princess Shirahoshi was 6 years old, Vanderdecken IX saw her with a group of giant sea kings. Neptune's face changed drastically, and he quickly interrupted. You don't need to say it. I agree. Advertisement. Is this where Princess Shirahoshi lives? Zhao Xu looked at the tower in front of him, his brow furrowed. The hard-shell tower is Princess Shirahoshi's bedroom and a refuge from pursuit. The entire building is made of steel, with various weapons inserted into the surface, eerie and cold. Regardless of the interior decorations, just looking at the exterior, it doesn't seem like a place where a girl should live. Not to mention a princess, my daughter, Shirahoshi, has been here for 2 years. She didn't even dare to attend her mother's funeral. Even if it's just for meal delivery, it can't exceed 5 minutes, Neptune sighed lightly. Unless I'm with her, I wouldn't dare let her leave this room. Apart from Neptune, the Sea Knight, who else can guarantee resistance against Vanderdecken IX's attacks? In fact, if Zhao Xu hadn't come, Shirahoshi would continue to hide in the tower for several more years before she could welcome her own dawn. It's okay, in a little while, she will be able to move freely, Zhao Xu said, then walked into Princess Shirahoshi's chamber through the open door. Unlike the cold iron walls outside, the room was decorated in a cute manner. The main color was warm pink, with various large dolls and toys, clearly showing that Neptune did not mistreat his daughter. However, as a king, he couldn't be with his daughter all the time. And without his protection, Shirahoshi could only obediently stay in the tower. In the depths of the room, on a huge white soft bed, a giant fishman mermaid lay there quietly, her fish fins swaying, looking adorable. As if hearing the sound of the door opening, she raised her head and looked towards the direction of the door. "Father, are you here to see me? Oh, there's a guest too." Shirahoshi curiously looked at Zhao Xu, her beautiful big eyes filled with curiosity. It seemed like she was curious why Zhao Xu looked different from other fishmen. "This is..." Neptune was about to introduce, but he was interrupted by Zhao Xu. "Hello, Princess Shirahoshi, I'm Zhao Xu, and I'm here to protect you." Chapter 159. Interrupting my chat with my sister is a capital offense. The first update asks for automatic. Chapter 159. Disturbing me and my little sister's chat is a capital offense. First update, seeking automatic translation. Shirahoshi's upper body looks like that of a human woman, with fair skin and light pink ribbons hanging from her shoulders. She has long, pink, wavy and flowing hair. At this age, she is more cute than beautiful. Her fair skin is dressed in adorable pink, even her fishtail is a pink color. She seems to be composed entirely of fair skin and varying shades of pink. Although she is only 10 years old, Princess Shirahoshi's height has already surpassed Zhao Xu's, measuring a full 5 meters. Looking at her, she appears like a giant. "Hello, Princess Shirahoshi, my name is Zhao Xu, and I have come to bombard you." Zhao Xu's mouth curls into a smile, leaving Neptune dumbfounded with his words. "Wait, Zhao Xu, what do you mean by that?" Neptune couldn't help but speak up. "Bombard? What does bombard mean?" Shirahoshi's face is full of confusion, asking curiously. This word is completely unknown to her. "Oh, it's nothing." Zhao Xu's mouth curls up. "It's just a fun interaction, you will definitely love it." "Oh," Shirahoshi tilts her head, looking adorable. If it weren't for her towering height, someone would have probably couldn't resist hugging her. Yes, I'm talking about Zhao Xu. Shirahoshi's beauty is officially recognized as one of the 3 top-tier beauties in the world of One Piece. The other 2 are Hancock and Kazuki Hiyori. However, compared to the other 2, Shirahoshi, despite her height, has a kind of lovable feeling that makes people want to tease her. So this is Poseidon. To think there is such a Poseidon. Zhao Xu squints his eyes, thinking to himself. Shirahoshi is a mermaid princess who appears only once every 800 years and can communicate with sea kings, the kings of the sea. Although both mermaids and fishmen can summon and communicate with fish, only Shirahoshi and the mermaid princess from the blank 100 years possess the legendary ability to control sea kings. Control sea kings. It sounds like something Zhao Xu could do, just like how Shanks can use hockey to force the nearby sea creatures to retreat. Advertisement, but this can truly be called the power to destroy the world. The largest known living creature, the giant battleship San Juan Wolf, is 180 meters tall and is currently under the command of Gilgamesh. It can be considered a strong force in the world. But the supergiant sea kings summoned by Princess Shirahoshi are the pinnacle of all marine creatures. They are at least 5,000 meters long, possess considerable intelligence and lifespan. Based on their telepathic communication, it is estimated that they have existed since the era of the previous mermaid princess. If these creatures were to create huge waves and launch attacks, I don't think any country could withstand it. After all, in the world of One Piece, most of the world consists of islands. However, contrary to the description of the power to destroy the world, Shirahoshi is naive and innocent, even pure like a little lamb. It feels like she can be easily deceived with a lollipop. Perhaps it is because of her innocence and simplicity that she is able to possess the ability to control sea kings. "Hey, Lord Zhao Xu, did you come from the sea?" Shirahoshi excitedly asks, interrupting Zhao Xu's thoughts. "Yes." Zhao Xu reveals a smile. "Can you tell me about the things on the sea?" Shirahoshi's face is full of longing, her eyes filled with fascination. "I heard there are many fun things and delicious food on the sea. Especially there's an amusement park above the Fishman Island. I really want to go there." Neptune secretly sheds tears upon hearing this. Amusement parks. It's a dream in everyone's heart, isn't it? But it's so difficult to make dreams come true. "Sure, I'll take you there next time," Zhao casually said. "I haven't been there either." "Really? Shirahoshi's fishtail wagged happily, but the next second her face was filled with hesitation. But I heard that the sea is dangerous, and amusement parks are also dangerous. Yeah, it's quite dangerous, Zhao nodded. But it's okay, if someone poses a danger to us, we just need to defeat them. Nippon beside them. The two chatted and laughed. Occasionally Zhao would tell stories about the sea, which was enough to confuse Shirahoshi and make her smile. Unlike Usopp, the stories Zhao told were all true, no need for fabrication. At most. Advertisements some happened to Gilgamesh, some happened to Zaraki Kenpachi. That's a gun. Damn it. Stop it, it's coming this way. A commotion came from outside the tower, and Princess Shirahoshi seemed to sense something, her body trembling. Familiar scenes, familiar fears surged up, causing her to instinctively close her eyes. But the expected sound of sword clashes did not come. When she opened her eyes again, she saw several gunblades in her hand. The sword kept trembling, as if trying to escape from his grasp. But soon, Zhao exerted force with his arm, and a pile of weapons turned into scrap metal. It seems like it's not the time to continue chatting now. Zhao sneered, then turned his head and asked, the direction the swords came from is the direction of Vanderdecken IX, right? Yes, Nippon nodded. Are you going? After hesitating for a moment, he said, actually, even if you don't go, we can still proceed with this transaction. Both sides will benefit from trading with the Revolutionary Army. There's no need to treat it as a reward. Of course I'm going, Zhao said with a cold expression. Disturbing my conversation with my little sister, does that guy Vanderdecken really know what mistake he made? Well, it's a capital offense. With that, he walked out directly. Chapter 160, it's time to recommend my old books again. Pirate World. Divine skills across the multiverse, my sister is Nuwa, Hokage. I have unlimited skill points, the strongest fantasy overlord. As for the group, the editor doesn't allow me to mention it, they'll kick me out if I do. So the new books don't have group numbers, unfortunately, I think you all understand what I mean, right? Chapter 160 Please go die Chapter 160. Just go and die, second update requested. Zhao Xu was not wearing anything and followed the direction of the weapons to find his way out. Normally, when people come to the Fishman Island, they would wear bubble helmets and bubble armor. After all, this place is 10,000 meters deep underwater, isolated from air, and subjected to endless water pressure. However, Zhao Xu didn't wear anything and just chased after them. The underwater humans have always been at a disadvantage. But if you want to kill the fishmen underwater and can't even overcome this disadvantage, what's the use? Fortunately, ninjas have a certain survival ability even underwater. In this regard, the Mist Village in the Hokage world is relatively good at it. Uchiha Madara is not particularly good at it, but he won't let the underwater become his weakness. A true master may have weaknesses, but definitely not weak points. Gilgamesh also has some treasures for underwater combat. Not to mention Zaraki Kenpachi, who already brings a feeling that doesn't belong to humans. And Saitama, he is not afraid of fighting underwater at all. Zhao Xu chased after them all the way, occasionally sensing the source of the weapons. Fortunately, the weapons shot by Vanderdecken X were not all shot at once and then done. Instead, they were shot intermittently, as if playing a drinking game. If he lost the game, he would shoot one. So while destroying Vanderdecken IX's weapons, Zhao Xu followed the direction of the weapons and quickly found the target. It's this one. Zhao Xu squinted his eyes and looked at the ship not far away. The ship was dilapidated, with even the sails torn. The bow of the ship had a skull pierced by swords, making the whole ship look like a ghost ship. The Flying Dutchman. On the deck of the ship, a fishman responsible for lookout reported loudly. Lord Vanderdecken, it seems like something is approaching us. Something? What is it? Vanderdecken IX wore a small hat, draped in a cloak, and covered by a large bubble. Advertisement standing on 4 legs, with one hand wearing a glove. He picked up the telescope, but the dim vision of the deep sea made it difficult to see clearly. I can't see it clearly, it seems to be coming towards us. Is it a fishman? Just kill it, whether it's a fishman or something else, does it make a difference? The crew members also looked over and discussed for a while. Soon, the figure approached closer, and those with sharp eyes had already seen Zhao Xu's figure. A human. How can a human be in the deep sea? He doesn't seem to be wearing a bubble, what's going on? Vanderdecken IX widened his eyes and looked at Zhao Xu, saying, Human? How did you end up here? Although he is a fishman, he can only wear a bubble to survive because he ate the devil fruit. However, that human who was getting closer and closer didn't wear anything at all. What special fruit did he eat to have special abilities? But that's not right, if you eat a devil fruit, you'll turn into a sitting duck. It looks like this is the place, Zhao Xu nodded, completely ignoring the other person's words. Then he looked towards the fishman. You're Vanderdecken IX, right? Oh, you know me? Vanderdecken IX squinted his eyes. What do you want with me? If it were an ordinary person, he would have already attacked without hesitation. But facing a human who could inexplicably move underwater, he thought it would be better to be cautious. It's you, that's enough. I haven't made a mistake, Zhao Xu said nonchalantly, paying no attention to anyone in front of him and speaking to himself. He slowly raised his fist. To be honest, I don't have much interest in Shirahoshi. I may say I want to marry her, but the height difference is enough to make me helpless. Advertisement, she hasn't even grown up yet, and she's already twice as tall as me. When she's fully grown, she'll probably be 3 or 4 times taller. Based on the average woman's body size, even if we were to really get together, our intimate life wouldn't be harmonious. Unless I use some kind of enlargement technique or something, but using that kind of thing in a marital relationship would be too uncomfortable, wouldn't it? After all, reality is like this. Even if I have exceptional talent and a size of 38, I still can't compete with a giant in terms of length and girth. Cute and beautiful as she may be, it doesn't create any desire. Zhao Xu casually spoke, ignoring everyone in front of him as if he were chatting with the air. That's right, this is actually his true thoughts. He's just that kind of practical man. Of course, even if it's difficult to use, if he could, why not? You also want Shirahoshi? Vanderdecken IX didn't pay attention to what Zhao Xu specifically said, but when he heard the name Shirahoshi, his eyes immediately widened and he emitted a murderous aura. He has the power of the target fruit, which allows him to automatically track any object thrown by a person designated as a target, unless it is knocked down or obstructed along the way. It's a very strong and buggy ability, otherwise Neptune wouldn't have endured him for so long without eliminating him and freeing Shirahoshi. If it weren't for a place like the Fishman Island, where his reputation is not well known. His bounty is definitely over 1 billion, his strength is very strong. That's in front of others. But you forced a little girl to hide in a place called a boudoir, which is actually a prison, for 10 years. Even if I don't want to do anything, I would still be a little angry, Zhao Xu calmly said, completely ignoring the commotion of the fishmen on the Flying Dutchman. They brought out cannons and aimed them at Zhao Xu. These modified cannons can be used underwater, or they could simply take out weapons like knives, guns, swords, and spears, and swim towards Zhao Xu with a fierce look. Fortunately, there's no one here, and I don't need to hide and conceal my abilities like before, so as not to be associated with my alter ego, Zhao Xu calmly said. So, fire! Vanderdecken IX shouted, and countless cannons fired at the same time. Boom! 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 Zhao Xu calmly looked down and said, just go and die. Finishing move. Serious series, serious punch, boom. Chapter 161. Keep things in your heart, third watch for automatic. Chapter 161. Keeping things hidden in the heart, third update request. Although Sabaody Archipelago was temporarily sealed off due to Uchiha Madara's incident, it is still the closest island to the naval headquarters in the Holy Land Marijoy. After the sealing, it gradually regained its prosperity. Of course, despite the continued existence of darkness after the Marine's cleansing, it was weak and far from being as stable as before. The people on the island still lived relatively well. At most, people like Shaki, who relied on the darkness for a living, would occasionally complain. Life went on as usual, with pirates occasionally coming and the Marines occasionally chasing after them. It seemed like everything was gradually returning to how it used to be. However, today seemed a bit different. Buzz. 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 The island trembled. The enormous Uruki crimson trees shook continuously, causing leaves to fall incessantly. The waves seemed to be stirred up, undulating without end. A tsunami was approaching. What's going on? Why is the sea suddenly in turmoil? A tsunami? Quickly informed the naval headquarters. Everyone was shocked and could only barely maintain their composure. The foundation of their composure was that the naval headquarters was nearby, and admirals like Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji were stationed there. Even if a tsunami broke out, with the admirals present, it would not be enough to destroy the Sabaody Archipelago with its 463 islands. Sure enough, Admiral Aokiji quickly arrived and, using the power of his frozen fruit ability, froze the tsunami and saved the island. Really, why did a tsunami suddenly occur? Shaki complained, casually straightening the fallen bottle. And an earthquake. Why did they happen together? Such bad luck. Business was already not doing well, and now this? What a hassle. Bad luck. Rayleigh sat casually on the side and raised his head when he heard Shaki's complaint. What's wrong? Shaki was taken aback. Nothing. Rayleigh squinted his eyes, and a glimmer of light flashed in his old eyes. If I remember correctly, that kid Zhao Xu hasn't been at the bottom of the sea for long. Shaki widened her eyes. Are you saying that this incident was caused by Uchiha Madara's younger brother? She wasn't stupid and naturally understood the implied meaning in Rayleigh's words. But a tsunami and an earthquake, could a person cause such things? If I'm not mistaken, Uchiha Madara didn't come this time, Shaki uncertainly said. That kid named Zhao Xu doesn't have much of a reputation either. Rayleigh didn't even lift his head at her words. Advertisement. Reputation? What does that have to do with strength? TB. Rayleigh couldn't help but reach for his sword. Before Zhao Xu found him and revealed his identity as Uchiha Madara's younger brother, Rayleigh almost couldn't resist making a move. Because he sensed a dangerous aura from Zhao Xu. A threat far surpassing Garp and Sengoku, whom he had dealt with in the past. Even surpassing his former captain. After seeing him, I haven't dared to put down this sword. Rayleigh sighed deeply in his heart. It really doesn't feel good to face the vague threat that is transmitted through the nerves without a weapon. Even though I know in my heart that there is no grudge between him and me. The sea surface is like this, not to mention the underwater. The atmosphere in the Ryugu Kingdom is constantly turbulent, almost damaged. Many fishmen were scared and quickly ran out to help stabilize the bubbles. Even the occasional humans staying in the Fishman Island were frightened and bought a lot of bubble helmets at all costs, fearing that the huge bubble would break at any time. But what reassured people was that the large bubble eventually held on. Really, what on earth is going on? Neptune's face still showed some fear. The Ryugu Kingdom has not experienced such a situation for a long time. The earth shook and the seawater trembled. If it weren't for the bubbles still being taken care of, and the various protective measures taken by the fishmen, it would really be dangerous. But, after the shaking stops, we must quickly find Zhao Xu. Neptune's eyes flashed with worry. It's difficult for humans to survive in this kind of shaking. In fact, not to mention humans, even fishmen would find it difficult to survive in this kind of shaking. Especially considering the direction Zhao Xu left, it seems to be the epicenter. If something happens to Zhao Xu, the Fishman Kingdom will have to face that terrifying Uchiha Madara. Advertisement. Thinking of that existence, Neptune's face darkened. Just a name is enough to make him terrified. Even the flag of Whitebeard, which represents the country, cannot make him feel safe. What are you doing? How did it become like this? Suddenly, a crisp voice sounded, and Neptune looked over in surprise, only to see Zhao Xu dripping wet, carrying a head in his hand. Zhao Xu? You're still alive? Neptune exclaimed in joy, unable to help but want to go over and take a look. But he was casually pushed aside by Zhao Xu. I only go after girls, not guys, thanks, Zhao Xu said casually, then handed him the head in his hand. Neptune instinctively took it, and upon closer inspection, it turned out to be the head of Vanderdecken IX. Just now, there was an earthquake on my side, then what happened to you? He turned his head and glanced at the dirt-covered Robin. He actually killed Vanderdecken IX in this kind of shaking? Yeah, Zhao Xu. He has become a mature man and needs to learn to keep things in his heart. Robin's mouth twitched, she didn't know why she was so unlucky. These shaking seems to be caused by me. Zhao Xu instinctively turned his head, only to see a woman with wet hair and several bruised marks on her head walking over. With Neptune's imagination, he never thought about the true source of this shaking. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Zhao Xu instinctively burst into laughter, but then suddenly froze. No, I'm not like you, I didn't have any conflicts with anyone. Robin's face was full of despair. A series of events seemed to be targeting her. I was shaken to the ground first, then various rocks and coral reefs came flying at me, then I was shaken into a stream, and then inexplicably shaken up and hit a rock. Robin, what happened to you? Zhao widened his eyes. Who beat you? This appearance is completely like being beaten up 10 times. Chapter 162. Charlotte Linlin is on the move. The fourth change asks for automatic. Chapter 162. Charlotte Linlin takes action. Fourth update requested. So, you managed to make a deal while I was studying history? Robin's mouth twitched as she looked in a pond beside her. Zhao Xu nodded. It should be considered a decent income. Don't call it just a decent income, it's a significant one. Robin glared at him irritably. The Revolutionary Army had very little land under their control. Although Dragon had wisely united many businessmen, it was still difficult for them to secure a stable income. They weren't the world government, who had plenty of land to waste and could afford to pamper the celestial dragons. Relying solely on individual donations and the spoils of battle was tough, especially since most of the captured resources had to be distributed to the civilians. Under the sea, there were countless resources. However, it was a forbidden land for humans, yet it was filled with treasures like jewelry and pearls that humans loved. If the residents of Fishman Island were humans instead of fishmen, they would undoubtedly be considered one of the richest countries. Of course, if fishmen were humans, they wouldn't be able to live underwater for long. One side possessed a large amount of treasure, while the other had sufficient sales channels. This was a natural combination. Robin didn't need to think twice. This long-term and stable income would undoubtedly bring significant results to the revolutionary cause, the cultivation of personnel, the mobilization of resources, the arrangement of spies. It would greatly promote the development of the Revolutionary Army. You can handle the specifics of the transaction. I don't want to deal with these troublesome matters. Zhao Xu waved his hand indifferently. He was ready to go see Shirahoshi again and then leave. He couldn't afford to wait any longer on Gilgamesh's side. Once the matter on Fishman Island was resolved, he could leave a clone to wait for Robin's return and then depart himself. As Zhao Xu walked over to Robin, he suddenly heard her whisper something. Thank you. This time, their purpose for setting sail was solely to fulfill Robin's request, to find the true history. Although she did have the authority to mobilize ships and had made significant contributions, as an insider of the organization, it was easy for her to be criticized for using the organization's resources for her own benefit. Now, with this achievement, it was enough to silence any idle talk and even earn her a lot of credit. It's nothing, Zhao Xu calmly replied. Then, he walked into Shirahoshi's chamber. New World, Usopp Island. Gilgamesh and the others had conquered Usopp Island today, turning it into their 10th territory. It had been 17 days since they had penetrated Charlotte Linlin's territory. They were openly declaring war, seizing her land, ruthlessly defeating her army, and mercilessly eliminating her soldiers. In this situation, Charlotte Linlin couldn't possibly sit still. Advertisement in fact, she hadn't. She had already sent people to attack Gilgamesh and the others. This is also a standard response. If just anyone were to let her take action, she wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. The person she sent out is none other than the strongest cadre, one of the Sweet 4 Stars, Charlotte Snack. The Sweet 4 Stars are under Charlotte Linlin, the collective term for the 4 highest-ranking cadres. They have quite a reputation and formidable strength, with bounties often reaching billions, similar to the 3 calamities under Kaido. However, faced with Charlotte Snack's attack, Gilgamesh didn't even make a move. He was stopped by Shiryu, who thirsted for battle. After a fierce battle, Shiryu was injured but emerged victorious, while Charlotte Snack was left on the brink of death. It was Doflamingo who felt it wouldn't be good to completely tear apart their relationship and intervene to save her. There's no way around it, Gilgamesh's subordinates are already very strong. Shiryu and the others are completely Blackbeard Teach's original crew, plus high-level fighters like Doflamingo, a Shichibukai. They're in no way inferior to the 4 emperors. After all, Blackbeard Teach will also become one of the 4 emperors in the future. They defeated the Sweet 4 Stars without their leader even making a move? This fact finally made everyone realize the strength of this team, and Charlotte Linlin couldn't just let her subordinates run over and die. Please give us flowers. So, without any hesitation, she led her fleet and headed straight for Gilgamesh. In reality, there was no other choice. Even those who felt it wasn't right for one of the 4 emperors, Mama, to take action had nothing to say. Besides Charlotte Linlin, who else would dare to claim victory against this team? It is expected that Charlotte Linlin should arrive tomorrow or the day after. Doflamingo whispered, should we confront her here? Advertisement. The result of Gilgamesh gradually occupying the land is that no one thinks he's just bluffing or has some other motive. Although he didn't have any other motive from the beginning. Big Mom will go crazy. I heard that half of Cake Island has already been destroyed because of her anger. Doflamingo's mouth twitched as he thought to himself. Unless deliberately hidden, there are few secrets at the level of the 4 emperors. Even a team like Whitebeard, where internal secrets are impossible to leak, had marine surveillance ships following them, let alone Charlotte Linlin. Then let's settle it here, Gilgamesh yawned nonchalantly. As the king, I will gladly accept her challenge and crush her like squashing a bug. Upon hearing this, Doflamingo's mouth twitched. Accept her challenge? Although it's a bit disrespectful to say this, everyone, including myself, thinks that you are the one challenging her. The position of the 4 emperors is inherently one that invites challenges. As long as you have confidence, Doflamingo didn't say anything else. After all, he knew his boss's personality. As the king, I have always been like this, Gilgamesh said indifferently. The confidence of a king? Gilgamesh glanced in a certain direction. Who made my true body already come? If it weren't for you constantly keeping me here and not giving me time to disappear, the one speaking to you right now would already be my true body. Chapter 163. Don't be self-righteous, miscellaneous cultivator. The first update asks for automatic. Chapter 163. Don't be so self-righteous, miscellaneous cultivator. First update, seeking automatic translation. Wushan Island is just an ordinary island. What makes it extraordinary is, it is about to become a battlefield. And not just any ordinary battlefield. Zhao Xu clearly felt that many people have left Wushan Island recently, but there are also many newcomers. They must be people from the world government, Zhao Xu thought to himself. Although he is not familiar with the haki commonly used in the world of pirates, he has a similar ability to sense the aura of power in other templates. These individuals with considerable strength clearly resemble the government's CPs. Of course, he also noticed some other people, some of whom have even clashed with the CPs, indicating the presence of other forces. 4 emperors. It seems that Gilgamesh's strength as the 240 is still imprinted in everyone's minds, Zhao Xu thought to himself. If it weren't for Gilgamesh's strength, why would they come here? Every year, countless pirates provoke the 4 emperors, but 99% of them don't even have the qualifications to report their names to Charlotte Linlin. However, even before Gilgamesh started fighting, other intelligence agencies came over, and Zhao Xu even discovered traces of the Revolutionary Army. This is the difference in strength. Of course, even if they come, it is unlikely that anyone would think the position of the 4 emperors would be shaken. After all, there are also many powerful experts on Gilgamesh's side. But, even if they fail, they can still cause a lot of trouble for Charlotte Linlin. Perhaps they can take advantage of the situation. Zhao Xu doesn't care. He just quietly enjoys everything that a king should enjoy in the identity of Gilgamesh. The best wine, the top-tier maids, the highest quality food. Even though this place is about to become a battlefield, it feels like a royal banquet, creating a stark contrast. He is at ease, but others are not as calm. Shiryu spends his days taking care of his sword. Doflamingo has secretly prepared several escape routes, and others have their own actions. Although not as prepared to escape as Doflamingo, they are still somewhat restless. After all, she is the strongest woman in the world. Advertisement every 2 days. A series of fleets finally appear on the sea. And there is also a roar. Kid, die. The faces of everyone resting on the beach change. Charlotte Linlin is here. Charlotte Linlin is here, and she is not hiding it? Countless ships that seem to have come out of a fairy tale, with talking figureheads at the front, and even the cannonballs are strange creatures that can jump into the cannons themselves. At first glance, it looks like a world from a little girl's fairy tale. But this is the fleet of the most ferocious pirates. And in front of all the ships, there's a cloud dancing in the sky. On top of the clouds stands a giant woman. She is a towering 8 to 9 meters tall, wearing a pink dress, but she is thick and fat, with a pink captain's hat on her head, and her fierce facial features twisted together. Kid, prepare to die, Charlotte Linlin, 4 emperors. The strongest woman in the world. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The atmosphere trembles, and the earth quakes. An endless pressure sweeps over, exerting itself on everyone. It's Conqueror's Haki. This woman's Haki is so strong. Doflamingo widens his eyes, a hint of disbelief flashing in them. Haki, especially Conqueror's Haki, represents a person's spirit. The spirit of the 4 emperors is enough to turn intangible pressure into tangible power. Even Shiryu feels a hint of pressure at this moment, gripping his sword in silence. However, at this moment, a disdainful voice rings out. Finally here, huh? I've been waiting impatiently. Gilgamesh strides forward, his face carved like a knife, filled with disdain. He is clad in golden armor, standing at the highest point, his face full of pride. Advertisement. Although he doesn't possess anything like Conqueror's Haki, unconsciously, everyone breathes a sigh of relief. The charm of a king. Doflamingo grits his teeth. It is this charm that gradually causes his subordinates to break free from his control and submit to him. Gilgamesh's gaze sweeps across the crowd. The arrivals here are all rare powerhouses on the sea. Perispero, Katakuri, Cracker, Pudding, Randolph, Baron Tamago. There are Charlotte Linlin's children and her subordinates. Of course, not all members of the pirate crew are present. Even if Charlotte Linlin is furious, the others who still have their senses intact will be on defense. Naturally, some experts are left behind. But even so, the people present are the top powerhouses on this sea. This guy is Gilgamesh, the one who dared to offend Mama. Perispero licks his cane. Baron Tamago squints his eyes. There are quite a few strong opponents on the other side. It will be a tough battle. Pudding can't help but glance at the most dazzling figure. He looks quite handsome. What a pity, he's about to die soon. With a handsome appearance, magnificent armor, and proud golden hair. Even as enemies, many people are captivated. Hey, what do you think? If Mama defeats him, will she let us join her pirate crew? Smoothie chuckles lightly. Maybe, if she joins 1.0, someone will have to sacrifice and marry into it. Brûlé chuckles, like a sinister witch. However, her words make many of the Charlotte family's women's eyes light up. Such a handsome man, if they were to marry him. After Mama defeats him, should we try to plead a little? However, at this moment, Gilgamesh's gaze finally falls on Charlotte Linlin, who is riding on Zeus. A look of anger instantly appears on Gilgamesh's face. A lowly dog who is only fit to crawl on the ground dares to float in the sky that should only be ruled by kings. Don't get ahead of yourself, you lowly peasant. The next second, he swings his arm. Countless ripples appear behind him, weapons surging forth. Chapter 164. The battle begins. The second update asks for automatic. Chapter 164. The great battle begins. Second update requested. The treasure of the king. Patterns resembling water ripples appeared in the space behind, and countless weapons emerged from it. In the next second, countless weapons roared and shot out. There were knives, guns, swords, and halberds. It was like the simultaneous firing of 10,000 cannons, but much stronger than mere cannonballs. Countless weapons fell like rain, bombarding the fleet of the Big Mom pirates. Boom, boom, boom. Ships were constantly shattered, people were constantly killed, and the sea was shaken by the bombardment. The few remaining ships were shaking uncontrollably. Suppressing the fleet of the 4 emperors single-handedly? How exaggerated. Whether it was the members of the Big Mom pirates or Gilgamesh's team, they all stared dumbfounded at everything happening. You scoundrel. Charlotte Linlin was furious, wielding the hilt of Napoleon's sword with her double-horned hat, using the blade to knock away the weapons that were being sprayed at her. Counterattack. Fire. Perispero, the eldest son of the Charlotte family, reacted quickly and shouted the order. Only then did everyone react and bring out the cannons, aiming them at the shore. Fortunately, the cannonballs and cannons of the Big Mom pirates were all homies, so they could adjust their direction themselves. They could jump into the cannon barrels. Otherwise, it would be really difficult to react under such intense attacks. Charlotte Linlin possessed the Paramecia soul fruit ability, which allowed her to manipulate souls and gain control over species with human thoughts and powers, homies. The soldiers of the Big Mom pirates, as well as some of the high-ranking officers, were all powerful warriors derived from this ability. Of course, there were also ships, cannons, doors, candies, tea, and so on. At first glance, it seemed like a fairy tale paradise. Under the overwhelming suppression of the endless treasure of the king, the cannonballs were difficult to launch. Compared to the countless weapons, there were too few cannonballs. Advertisement cannons, my goodness. Although Gilgamesh had the fewest cannons and not many ships, in front of this man, they were instead suppressed and looked insignificant. Ships, approach the shore and charge in. Katakuri shouted angrily. At this rate, the entire fleet would be destroyed by that man. Although Charlotte Linlin was a mother and a captain, she hardly took care of things, or rather, with her ferocious temperament, she was more like a warrior than a commander. Her army was commanded by her offspring, and everyone naturally knew whose orders to follow at this moment. Without hesitation, they struggled to approach the shore, braving Gilgamesh's attacks. Even if they couldn't rely on the ships to approach the shore, they would fly towards the shore with the help of some homies that could float in the sky. For example, Pudding possessed the homies, Jelly Nitro, and Blanket Rabian, the latter of which could fly. Other offspring also had similar homies to varying degrees. Even if they didn't, it wouldn't be a big problem to find a homie to ride on among their nearby siblings. Although Gilgamesh's attacks cleared out most of the small fries, it is difficult for experts to die under large-scale attacks. Now it's our turn, Shiryu grinned, showing an excited smile. Yeah. Cheers, Bask Jode took a sip of his drink. Zan Yu Hunter Caitlin Adapung pursed her lips. A battle against the four emperors, now that's interesting. Doflamingo shook his head. Then, without hesitation, they led the others and charged towards the crew members of the Big Mom pirates. Shiryu faced off against Katakuri, Doflamingo faced off against Smoothie. The others also found their opponents. In fact, they didn't have to follow the rules of knightly combat, where kings fight kings and generals fight generals. Most of the time, even if you don't want to fight the other party, they will eventually come looking for you. Eliminating small fries is easy for these experts, but as they continue to eliminate them, they will encounter other experts. Experienced small fries know that once the experts start fighting, they need to immediately create enough space for them, otherwise they will be dragged into the fight and meet their demise. Of course, the space left for the fight is not fixed, but slowly shifts depending on the fighting parties. As the high-level battles gradually stabilize, the overall situation becomes clearer. Advertisement Doflamingo and the other high-level fighters engage in intense battles, forming the main battlefield. Around the main battlefield are various smaller battlefields, where the lower-ranking executives fight for their lives. And on the outermost periphery are the ordinary small fries, who form teams and cooperate with each other in battle or rely on numbers. Gilgamesh squinted his eyes and scanned the whole scene. What a bunch of trash. His troops were being suppressed by the enemy. The main composition of Gilgamesh's forces consists of prisoners who escaped from Impel Down, plus some pirates who joined him later due to his reputation. Their strengths vary, and they are not accustomed to group battles. They often fight individually and are then divided and annihilated by the enemy. Although they are not inferior to Charlotte Linlin in terms of top-level experts, they are completely suppressed by the four Emperor's pirate crew at the lower level. After all, they are the ones standing at the top of the sea. Even if they couldn't mobilize their entire army, even if they were heavily bombarded by Gilgamesh before landing. But they still have the power to suppress ordinary teams. This cannot be blamed on Gilgamesh. He rose too late, and time was too short for him to gather qualified warriors. Even though his charisma is strong, he still needs people to join him first, to slowly get in touch with them and win them over. With few numbers and weak strength, how can they fight? In fact, if it weren't for the ability to construct fortifications, they would have probably been defeated long ago. Fortification construction is a standard skill for the caster profession. When Gilgamesh acts as a caster, he can construct a powerful magic workshop and even turn a stronghold into a super fortress that is difficult for even a leader to invade. The Uruk fortress itself was designed by Gilgamesh. Of course, this temporary island didn't require much effort from him, he just built it casually. But it was enough to temporarily withstand the Big Mom pirates. Gilgamesh snorted. Having his own skills and still being suppressed by the four emperors, they are all just amateurs. But it's fine, Gilgamesh's gaze was deep as he looked at the woman charging towards him with her massive figure. After all, the one who can truly decide the battle is the battlefield on our side. Chapter 165 Charlotte Linlin vs Gilgamesh, the third change asks for automatic. Chapter 165, Charlotte Linlin vs Gilgamesh, third update requested. The battle erupted. The expressions on the faces of the observers hidden around were all quite surprised. The subordinates of both sides didn't immediately determine the winner? Gilgamesh has only risen recently, just 1 or 2 years ago. His subordinates are already able to fight against the four emperors' army? Unbelievable. The crowd secretly marveled and then shifted their gaze to the two main characters. Gilgamesh and Charlotte Linlin. Charlotte Linlin held a knife in one hand, with thunderclouds beneath her feet and the sun above her head. She was furious, charging towards Gilgamesh like a wild boar. Along the way, the miscellaneous soldiers, whether they were Gilgamesh's subordinates or her own, forcefully rushed forward. HMPH. A bunch of lowly peasants, Gilgamesh snorted coldly, and the treasures behind him shifted and bombarded Charlotte Linlin. Clang. 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 Countless weapons suddenly bombarded, but Charlotte Linlin blocked them with her Napoleon hat. Although there were some stragglers, they mostly hit the thundercloud Zeus beneath her feet. And Zeus, Prometheus the sun, and Napoleon with the double-horned hat. Although these existences were all homies, the souls infused in them were Charlotte Linlin's own soul. The souls of the four emperors and ordinary souls have a huge difference in the quality of their souls. Are they already comparable to low-level noble phantasms? Gilgamesh squinted his eyes, seemingly unconcerned. The treasures behind him continued to bombard relentlessly. Boom. 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 Precious and priceless noble phantasms were being used as if they were worthless. Even though Charlotte Linlin, as one of the 4 emperors, was quick and powerful, she couldn't get close for a while. This guy. Charlotte Linlin's eyes flashed with anger. She had considered just resisting a few times and charging forward. Big Mom had a very tough body and strong defense. The giant's blade broke when it struck the 5-year-old Big Mom, and even a rain of bullets couldn't leave a scratch on her, like a steel balloon. This was the inherent powerful strength she possessed. However, just now, she didn't pay attention to those flying weapons. Advertisement, but when she made contact just now, her expression changed drastically. Her body, which couldn't be moved by cannon fire, easily left a wound on those weapons. Blood flowed out like an ordinary person. At that moment, Charlotte Linlin knew that she absolutely couldn't resist head-on. Her strong body wasn't as useful against those dangerous weapons. She had to be suppressed. Even though Charlotte Linlin naturally possessed monstrous strength and could kill a bear with 1 punch at the age of 5, and even slapped a few giant soldiers, breaking their ribs when she tried to help the giants swat away mosquitoes. But with just a little carelessness. When Gilgamesh concentrated the treasures that originally covered his entire army on her alone, even the 4 emperors felt somewhat restricted. Kid, if you have the ability, let's have a real fight with real weapons. Charlotte Linlin became furious and even grabbed a few pirate soldiers, using them as weapons to throw at Gilgamesh. However, Gilgamesh still just snorted arrogantly. A mere peasant, don't you even have the ability to come close to me? I really overestimated you all? 4 emperors? Haha. The disdain in his words was palpable to anyone. Kid? Charlotte Linlin glared, suddenly reaching up. Note. The translation provided is a direct translation and may not capture the full meaning or context of the original text. Prometheus, the sun, was captured in his hand, and Prometheus, who originally had a gentle expression, instantly turned into anger. Fire in the sky. Injecting a soul into an object can make the object obey oneself. By using the power of the soul fruit, Big Mom gained the ability to manipulate weather and natural phenomena. Prometheus, the sun, is just a flame itself, but with Charlotte Linlin's power, it becomes extraordinary. Boom. A huge wave of fire blasted towards Gilgamesh. However, Gilgamesh just snorted disdainfully, without even a slight change in his movements. Boom. 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 Countless weapons of the treasures of kings were ruthlessly blasted out. The huge wave of fire couldn't even get close and was instantly dispersed by Gilgamesh. Charlotte Linlin's eyes narrowed. Although the fire in the sky was not her strongest attack, the fact that the opponent didn't even move surprised her. The people around locked their eyes on the battlefield between the two, even the senior executives were the same. Mother can't even move? The members of the Big Mom pirates widened their eyes, showing expressions of disbelief. Advertisement such a powerful mother they had never seen before. Our king is actually this strong. Shiryu and the others also widened their eyes, unable to believe it. They all knew that Gilgamesh was definitely not weak, but they never expected that the 4 emperors, who were supposed to be powerful, couldn't even get close to him. Could it be that he can win? Doflamingo squinted his eyes. He was the most cunning person and had made many preparations, such as retreat and betrayal. But now none of his plans were useful, and he found that the opponent could win. And it was a crushing victory? That's the 4 emperors? And when everyone was shocked, Charlotte Linlin finally spoke. Although I don't want to use it, but it's time to take action now. Her voice was cold, as if a chilling wind was blowing. Then, she suddenly swung her sword. The huge blade drew a crescent-shaped arc. Fierce sword wind suddenly erupted. The fierce sword energy stirred up a huge cloud of dust. If you surrender, this king can also consider making you my subordinate. And it didn't lose momentum, heading straight for Gilgamesh. Elbaf spear. Royal wrath. But it wasn't over yet. Charlotte Linlin suddenly leapt and swung her sword, rushing into the heavy dust. Boom. It seems that you still have some ability, actually being able to come to this king's side. Gilgamesh smiled at the corner of his mouth, calmly and arrogantly said. Like a meteor tearing through the sky, accompanied by a dragon's roar, it blew away the weapons in front of Gilgamesh. However, the next second, everyone's pupils contracted. Because of her childhood experiences, Charlotte Linlin was expelled from the giant country, and she had never wanted to use the techniques of the giants. It was almost an instant, and the sword energy arrived in front of Gilgamesh, erupting. But now she couldn't care about that anymore. Gilgamesh still stood there calmly, with a hint of arrogance and disdain. This was a technique of the giants, using a large sword to slash out a giant sword energy in front. First, it was the 4 emperors' ultimate move, and then the 4 emperors themselves also rushed in. Is he dead? Everyone's gaze turned to the dust. And in front of him, several swords were horizontally suspended in the air, firmly blocking Charlotte Linlin's sword. The sword energy roared.